Good little bloke. He wasn't about sharing stuff. And he wanted to do public speeches. But him and George and Mayor from Brumble were both persuaded roughly by old about. And I rang George up and used and moved back into this organization, functionality, I saw George the other day.
Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting and for the 16th of February 2026. As is practice, we have a public forum before the meeting, and I must start by giving you the information regarding recording and live streaming of this public forum. The public forum is being live streamed and recorded under Council's Code of Meeting Practice. By attending, you consent to your image and voice being recorded and published on Albury City website. Members of the public are also reminded to refrain from making defamatory comments or disclosing personal information. Albury City is not responsible for comments made by individuals. Recordings and live streams are protected by copyright and owned by the Albury City. No part may be copied, recorded, reproduced or transmitted without the prior written consent of the CEO. Okay. We have no conflict of interest declarations received in relation to the public forum. PF3, our speakers. PF3.1, we have Diane Lynch and David Hunter. If you could come forward to the lectern, please. And they're speaking in relation to CM 14.1, Development Application 10.2025.41401.1, 2 lot Torrens Title Subdivision 843 Pearsall Street, Hamilton Valley, speaking against the recommendation. Thank you, Di.
Thanks very much, councillors. You'll, I'm sure, recall that I'm the mother who wants her son to stay in the region and live in a lovely little block beside our house. My son, Max, is with us here tonight. Last time I came somewhat and spoke off the cuff. Tonight I'm more prepared. Councillors, thank you for the opportunities to speak today. As you'll recall, this subdivision proposal was carefully considered at your meeting on the 8th of December 2025. After assessing all the evidence, you resolved to support the development, subject to appropriate conditions. That decision was based on logic, evidence, and the analytical reasoning expected of this elected body. It was not and should not be dismissed as a personal or emotional consideration. Unfortunately, the planning team's subsequent assessment has departed from that reasoned decision. It has relied on outdated guidelines, misrepresented the level of engagement with us, and failed to apply the current 2025 New South Wales guidelines for wastewater disposal, which uses a risk-based approach and which has deemed our subdivision low risk. This has not only caused unnecessary delay, but risks undermining your clear directive to approve the subdivision with conditions. Let's be clear on the facts, and some of them are on the board. This proposal has taken an inordinate amount of time to be considered. It was first lodged on the 23rd of April 25. No public submissions were received during the consultation period to 27th of May 25. It took some 7 months for the proposal to be given to you to consider in the December 25 council meeting. The summary to the paper to council for this meeting tonight advises that the applicant advised council staff that no further information would be provided and requested that the application proceed to determination on the basis of the material submitted. This is not correct. 3 days after the December council meeting, a letter was sent to David Christie from Habitat Planning. This is in the papers that have been provided to you. Councillors, I don't understand why council staff said that we would not provide further information. A qualified environmental scientist prepared the land capability assessment. It proposes a secondary treatment system exceeding the standards of a typical septic setup. The LCA confirms that all wastewater will be treated and contained within the property boundaries, with no risk to waterways or adjoining land. The setbacks are entirely compliant, within 15 to 40 metres for surface water, 3 metres from the neighbouring dwelling, well within the allowed range, and the driveway layout is clearly identified and compliant with the 2025 requirements. The planning team itself acknowledges that no sewer infrastructure exists on the southern side of Pearsall Street. The paper presented to you by council staff states that reticulated sewer infrastructure is available within approximately 70 metres of the subject land. This is at best misleading. The fact is that it is 300 metres from the proposed lot boundary to the sewer infrastructure. This would require easements to be established across Pearsall Street and through blocks that are currently for sale. The ECA very clearly demonstrates is low risk and suitable for one additional dwelling. Every property west of ours on Pearsall Street accesses on-site waste management. Every relevant authority, including the New South Wales Rural Fire Service and a registered surveyor for the proposed easements, has confirmed that access, water and stormwater arrangements are compliant and permissible under Torrens title. The proposal respects the positive covenant, which was written to address large-scale urban development, not a modest two-lot subdivision serviced on site. Most importantly, we have always accepted that the subdivision approval will be subject to conditions requiring compliance with the submitted LCA. Councillors, this is a straightforward decision. The evidence supports approval. The expert reports are sound. The proposal meets all 2025 guidelines using a modern risk-based framework that attaches a low risk to this subdivision. Your previous resolution to support this development was and remains entirely justified. I urge you now to instruct the Planning Department to implement your original resolution, approve the subdivision with appropriate conditions in line with the professional evidence before you. Doing so upholds not only procedural integrity, but also good governance, fairness, and confidence in this council's decision-making process. Thank you.
And Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Look, I'd like to apologise to you and your family that you're being put through this again, for my part. As far as I'm concerned, the correct decision was made last year in September, and the lack of conditions attached to that decision were purely a function of a deficient report that was presented to councillors, and shouldn't. I'm very embarrassed and sorry that has resulted in your family being further put through this and brought back here again, and that there's even a spectre that it may be reversed. And I'll have something to say about that later. So I'm sorry about this.
Councillor Callaghan, question.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I will ask a question, but I'd also like to extend my thanks before I ask the question for the post-council meeting response addendum letter that we received that goes forth in rebutting the 3 reasons why it should be rejected. And I understand that this is very much a DA for a subdivision and not for a dwelling, but it appears in that letter that we received that, that is a separate DA requirement. However, it seems that you're willing to make lots of concessions, and I suppose the first one was that you noted a 4-bedroom dwelling, but in your notes it says you'd construct a 3-bedroom dwelling with smaller disposal area if required moving forward. So my question is, you are willing to adjust the thought or the footprint moving forward?
So our position is, and has remained from day dot, we'll comply.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're not trying to go outside of anything. We're establishing a reasonable process to build a house.
Thank you.
Okay, appears to be no further questions. Thanks for your presentation. Okay, we're up to 3.2, Paul Humphreys, who's online, CM 14.2, Development Application 10.2025-41462.1, alterations, additions to dwelling, outbuilding, garage at 572 Electra Street, East Strawberry. Speaking against, Mr. Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and councillors. Thanks for listening to me today. I'm speaking as a resident of 568 Electra Street, East Albury, the neighbour to the south of the proposed development at 572 Electra Street. Our objections relate to the loss of amenity of our property as a result of the construction of an approximately 6.5 metre high building on the boundary between our 2 properties. The Albury City Development Guidelines exist to protect the amenity of, amongst other things, neighbouring properties. If the proposed development followed those guidelines, we wouldn't be here making an objection. Unfortunately, the proposed development does not follow those guidelines. The developer admits this and the Albury City Council assessors admit this, yet the proposal is recommended to be approved. The justification for why the development be approved seems to rest on the fact that some compromises have been made from the original proposal. But these compromises are negligible in regard to our property, have not meant any reduction in height of the proposed building, and they include now a small token side setback, and therefore does not protect our amenity any more than the original development proposal did. So the guidelines, the council guidelines, Division D, Clause 2B2, state that only a single-storey building is permissible in the back 40% of a property, yet the proposed development is 2 stories and will have a masonry wall 6.5 metres high abutting our property. This development clearly contravenes the guidelines, but it is recommended to be approved. We should not have, and the guidelines say that we shouldn't have, a 6.5 metre high wall on our fence line. It will dramatically affect the character of the neighbourhood, will loom over our backyard and cast a large part of our backyard in shadow during winter. The guidelines are there to protect our amenity, but if the development goes ahead, our amenity will not be protected. The guidelines also state that construction 4.5 metres or greater in height must have a side setback of 1.5 metres, Division D, Clause 2C6. The initial proposal had a 0 setback. The most recent proposal, the one that is recommended for approval, has a proposed token 20 centimetre setback. 20 centimetres is 1/8 of the setback specified in the guidelines. A 1.5 metre setback is meant to allow access for construction and maintenance. A 20 centimetre side setback is far too small for either of these and is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable because, 1, it does not give enough space for construction or maintenance of the proposed building, and 2, would therefore require access to our property for both, to which we do not consent. And 3, it risks damaging large mature trees on our property, which the guidelines say must be protected. Both the height of the proposed building and a lack of setback mean that our backyard will be at times in major and at other times in some shadow for most of the day in winter from 9 AM to 3 PM. We want to be able to dry our washing, grow fruit from our fruit trees, grow vegetables in our vegetable gardens, have sun for our chickens and an area in winter for our grandchild to play in. This building will dramatically and negatively affect all of these amenities. The guidelines exist to protect our amenity, but if the development goes ahead, our amenity will not be protected. The nature of the proposed development has changed at last count 4 times in response to each set of objections. Initially, it was called a studio, then an office, then a secondary dwelling, and now it's called a detached home office and garage development. It seems that the applicant has changed the purpose to whatever is needed to get the development through. So in conclusion, councillors, the development guidelines exist to protect neighbour amenity and to provide a framework that means the council makes its decisions and allows neighbours that may not like the decisions to have an impartial umpire. It should not be our responsibility to ensure that the guidelines are adhered to. It's a shame that we have to present our objections to a proposed development that should have been refused from the start because it so clearly contravened multiple council development guidelines. And so we respectfully urge the council to refuse the proposed development at 572 Electra Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. Question, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Humphries. I'm just referring to the comment. I'm just having a look at the site now, and you referred to the overshadowing being on veggie patches, chickens and clotheslines. From what I can see, it is a driveway. Can you clarify, please?
No, that's not a driveway. It overshadows, that might be behind on our south, we're on the south side, and therefore the sun is on that north side in winter.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Humphries.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next presenter, which is Andrea Traversaris, PM PF 3.3, SAM 14.2, Development Application 10-2025-41462.1, alteration additions to dwelling, outbuilding, garage at 572 Electra Street, East Albury. Speaking against, thank you, Mr. Travasaris.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, Chief Executive Officer, senior council staff. My name is Andrea Travasaris and I thank you for the opportunity to provide additional support, information and detail to my submission in relation to the development application at 572 Electra Street, East Albury. The development description has changed since my last submission from a secondary dwelling to a two-storey detached outbuilding structure that includes a home office. If it is treated as an ancillary structure, the rules are simple. 1 story, 3.6 maximum height, 1.5 metre setback, 3.3 metre if it sits on the 0 to 900 millimetre boundary. The assessment report acknowledges that this is already a heavily developed R1 lot, and further vertical expansion is inconsistent with the LEP objectives for low to medium density areas. The R1 zone requires development to be compatible in scale, bulk and height, protect amenity, respect topography, and ensure ancillary structures remain subordinate. This proposal does not. There are only 2-storey primary dwellings in this area. No properties have 2-storey ancillary buildings in the rear 40% of their lots. This elevated structure is out of character, visually dominant and inconsistent with the step pattern of development on the slope, causing significant impacts. It is not compatible with the neighbourhood character or the scale and character of the principal dwelling. Now, Council's assessment report cites case law of Davies versus Penrith City Council and Pathburn versus North Sydney Council. Now, Davies in particular requires a holistic assessment of amenity impacts from the neighbour's perspective, considering a combined effect of bulk, height, enclosure, privacy, view loss and microclimate. The assessment report treats each variation separately and relies on subjective terms like reasonable and acceptable, instead of assessing the LEP objectives or the cumulative severity of the impacts on amenity. Now, Pathburn confirms that numeric compliance or even minor design changes do not make a development acceptable if the underlying objectives are not met. Council has allowed multiple variations without demonstrating how any of these DCP or LEP objectives have been satisfied. And under Pathburn, that's not a lawful basis for approval. Now, from our living rooms, we currently enjoy an approximately 85-degree panoramic view of Monument Hill and the CBD, as demonstrated in Image A. The existing carport roof in the image sits where the proposed first floor level of this development will be, adding a 3-metre tall structure across almost the full width of the block would reduce this broad outlook to a small fragment on the lower right side of the window shown in Image B. Under Tenacity Consulting versus Warringah Council, 2004, a view of Monument Hill in Albury would be considered a valued view. Whole views are valued more highly than partial views. Impacts from living areas carry the greatest weight, and a near total loss is not view sharing. It is treated as a severe impact. Now, the assessment report understates that the impact is a partial, by saying that it's a partial loss, and relies on an out of scale applicant supplied diagram to make their assessment. Now, the north elevation is misleading. It does not accurately show the building's relationship to our townhouses. So in Image C, I have overlaid a more accurately scaled 1 to 200 drawing onto the applicant's diagram to show the clear inconsistencies. Now, the height of this structure also creates a significant wind shadow and a microclimate impact. It will block the prevailing west to east upslope airflow, forcing wind up and over our buildings and creating a stagnant air canyon in our L-shaped double brick courtyard. A 6-metre obstruction produces a wind shadow extending 2 to 5 times its height. That's 2 to 30 meters, and the steep slope further amplifies this effect. Our building is only 12 to 13 meters away. This effectively closes us in on the third side, trapping heat in summer, cold in the winter, reducing natural ventilation and increasing dependence on heating and cooling. Now, combine that with the overshadowing of number 2287 Ashman Avenue's living area and balcony, it will create a colder and damper winter condition. The canyoning effect will also amplify sound and create echo within our courtyard. Now, Davies versus Penrith City Council requires site-specific microclimate assessment, which has not been done. Voloshin versus Randwick City Council confirms that creating an enclosed stagnant microclimate is an unreasonable amenity impact. Pathburn makes it clear that even compliant development must be refused if it causes unreasonable environmental performance impacts, such as ventilation loss or microclimate stagnation. Now, by creating one...
Travis, your 5 minutes has expired.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Questions, councillor Gluckin?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation through you, Mr. Chair. You made reference to diagram C and said that you had overlaid 2 versions to scale. Can you explain that? Because even with glasses on, I can't read the descriptions there.
I've taken the contour measurements that were given on the diagrams that were the other diagrams in their application, and and I've adjusted the levels because the building that you can see in the picture is what was provided. Our building is 4.8 meters high, right?
And that's the one in
The one on the left side of the picture. So down the bottom. The blue box is what I've put in there is our building on the left-hand side is 4.8 meters high. The development is on the right. Now, the diagram that they've supplied, if our building is 4.8 meters high, the original carport on the left-hand side, if you were trying to use their scale, would be about 1.5 meters high. The building on the right is out of scale as well. So their building is 6 meters high, but it's on like lower ground by about, actually I'm not, I know that the building comes to a height that is 1 meter less than our building. Right, even though it's lower down on the slope.
I understand what you've done now.
Okay, yeah.
A transparent light roof.
Yeah,
No,
I couldn't figure out how best to show you, but that was the best way that I could think of doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. No further questions. Thanks for your presentation. Go up to PF 3.4, Catherine Stewart, 14.2, development application 102025 or 41462.1, alteration additions of dwelling, outbuilding and garage at 572 Electra Street. Speaking against. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors and,
Would you like to push the
sorry,
mic down?
that one?
No, push it,
Yeah.
pull it down towards you.
It's the button. Okay, do I need to say that again?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, distinguished guests, thank you for having me to speak today. As you've heard from the previous 2 residents, they've covered quite a fair bit, so I won't sort of double up on that. So I'll get to a more critical point in the application. The assessment report has acknowledged that the site is heavily developed in the R1 general zone. With further vertical development on this lot is inconsistent with the objectives of the Albury LEP. The R1 zone is to maintain medium density character, ensure development is compatible in scale, bulk, height, protect amenity by minimising overshadowing, privacy loss, respect natural topography and support dwellings in subordinate ancillary areas. This proposal conflicts with all those objectives. The proposal does not satisfy the objectives of the zoning and not responding to the site environmental conditions of topography, which is critical because it's quite a sloping site, and is not compatible to the established streetscape. How can council determine an application in this appropriate of this site? The Albury DCP ancillary development clause 3.1, the term compliance gross floor area of an ancillary building can be no more than 60% of the total gross of the floor area of the primary residence. Even though this information was not provided in the application, the primary of my calculations, and they're only approximate, but the primary residence has an approximate gross floor area of 176 metres square, 60% of which is 107 metres square. The proposed ancillary two-storey building is proposing 134.64 metres square, exceeding the maximum gross floor area allowable of 27.64 in accordance with the Albury DCP. This non-compliance alone warrants refusal because, as the office has written in his report, this is an overdeveloped site. In clause 3.3, maximum building height is 3.6 at the side of or rear boundary, having a 1 metre setback. And the maximum wall height is 3.3 to the boundary for 0 to 900 setback. The proposed ancillary building is 13.6 metres wide on a 17.3 metre boundary length, which in Andrea's photo, that pretty much shows why there was so much view loss, having a 6.5 metre wall height on a 3.4 metre boundary, which was requiring 6 metres from the boundary, creating significant impact on the height, bulk, scale and position at the highest point of the lot. Ancillary two-storey structures with 0 setback cannot be lawfully maintained from within the applicant's land. The Land Environment Court has repeatedly held structures that must be capable of lawful maintenance. A building that requires trespass to maintain is not acceptable to planning practice, and this is a planning problem. The maximum building height ancillary structures is 3.6 wall height to require 1.5 metre from the boundary. Where the ancillary structure is built 0 to 900 boundary, it can only be 3.3 metres in height. This building is over 6 metres. The issue is not the purpose of the room, but the scale and location. On the structure proposed to contain it, the two-storey build sited on the highest point at the rear 40% of the lot, attached to an existing garage carport on an east-south boundary, creates significant permanent impacts to the 3 primary dwellings. These are major cumulative impacts arising from a detached ancillary structure for the home use, or home office use. The multiple designs the applicant has provided clearly demonstrate the proposed development is not fit for purpose for the site. The assessment does not apply this test. It treats each variation in isolation and relies on subjective terms such as reasonable, acceptable, rather than addressing the LEP planning objectives as a cumulative severity of the impacts of this residential amenity. We seek council's support to refuse this application on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Please no questions, but I just want to ask you, in contrast to this bill, where do you live?
I don't think it's, well, I live in Albury. I live in the Albury community. Sorry, in the Albury city area.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
I am here. I have. There was the resident that lives across the road. Initially,
Yeah.
you will find in the submissions there is one that I wrote on her behalf due to her illness, and she was not able to attend today.
Thank you. Admirable of you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, we're up to 3.5. Sam 14.2, Neil Sawyer, 10.225.41462.1 alterations and additions to dwelling outbuilding garage at 572 Electra Street, East Albury, speaking for Mr. Sawyer.
Evening all. I'll keep it short and sharp. Just like to thank the councillors and the staff for this evening. We work with the council planning staff throughout the planning process with several meetings to gain council's advice on the planning measures to satisfy both the state and the local planning guidelines. As you heard earlier, we know that the recommendation by the council staff is to approve. We appreciate everyone this evening. There's been lots of emotion, obviously, lots of opinions, but opinions don't matter. It's just the guidelines. We've followed the guidelines and we hope that you do as well. I thank you for your time. Any questions?
Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. What do you say about the assertion made by Ms. Stewart about the gross floor and the subsequent ratio of the floor size?
So,
when why do you say it's not correct?
provide them, but I don't believe they're correct. I believe the numbers presentation are correct.
Through you,
Sure.
Mayor Mack, to the most appropriate member of staff, could the staff shed some light on this issue?
Mr. Christie, probably should be in the debate, but I'll allow it.
I remember saying that.
Hmm?
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor Mack. If you want, I can do some quick calculations in time for the.
I think having
debate.
previously said that this sort of question should be asked during the debate, it
Yeah.
might be a bit rich even for me to
Yeah.
not give you the time to do that. So
Thank you,
let's do
councillor
that.
Cameron. Okay. No further questions, Mr. Sawyer. Thank you very much.
For your time.
Okay, we're up to 3.6, David Thurley, CM 14.6, contract 25/02438, Albury Entertainment Centre, speaking for the motion. Yeah.
Far less complex than the previous matters you've had to deal with. I speak tonight to ask councillors to proceed with the redevelopment of the convention wing by accepting the tender from Zorn & Co to allow works to start as soon as possible. To date, significant amounts of council officers' time and large amounts of money have been spent in getting to this stage. To not proceed now would be a waste of that time and money, but even worse, it would throw away $25 million in grant funding for this project. As you know, the convention wing was built in 1972, and there's been no significant redevelopment since 1993. But in that time, significant amounts of money have been spent fixing the failures of an ageing building that is no longer fit for purpose. Currently, there are only 3 conference venues in regional New South Wales, Tamworth, Wollongong and the Hunter Valley, that can cater for business events with 500 people or more. All 3 venues have confirmed strong growth in regional conferencing, with forward bookings and interest extending right through to the end of 2027. This redevelopment would position the AEC competitively to capture a share of this growing market. And this was highlighted for a previous group of councillors by Peddle Thorpe, who in a workshop highlighted the increasing demand for such convention facilities. The report you have highlights several of these opportunities. Significant savings have been made in the cost of the upgrade by reusing suitable materials and structures from the existing building. The tender from Zorna shows that council will only have to contribute $7.8 million before contingencies, which I accept could add significantly to that amount of money. Council's contributions would not be required before financial year 2027-28 because of the grant funding and the time scale of the development. If you decide not to proceed, you may save some money, but you'll have to expend at least $9 million to rectify serious structural and other problems with the existing building. Finally, I would like to remind councillors that this is one of the very few council assets that has the potential to earn money. There are only 3 places in New South Wales outside of Sydney that can cater events with more than 500 people, as I've already mentioned. And demand is there. For example, the Responsible Investment Association Australasia Conference will be held in Melbourne Convention Exhibition Centre in May this year. The 2025 RIAA conference in Australia had more than 800 delegates. There are plenty more out there, as noted in the report. The tender from Zorna was brilliant and the construction time is fantastic. So let's get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thurley. Question, councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Thurley, or David Marquis. David, I have considerable respect for you. You and I have had our differences on issues along the way since 2012 and in council and some other matters, but by and large, I've always found you a highly intelligent and very principled person, and I have nothing but respect for you. And there's no but coming. But, or no, there is no. Sorry. You were a proponent for Mama, which I, as a matter of record, disagreed with and still disagree with. The same contractor built Mama as would like to tender for, has tendered for this project. Variations and contingencies were a major cost contribution to the ultimate price of Mama. What surety or even confidence could council have that the same won't occur here?
I'd like to say that the two buildings are completely different. Development of Mama was done in a building, I've forgotten the age of the old town hall, but it clearly had major faults that this building does not have. This is a modern building. Yes, it's going downhill, but the contingencies when Mama occurred were because of an old structure that had not been properly maintained. I think I've forgotten how many tonnes of bird droppings were in the roof. There were clearly issues with asbestos, etc. I think the contingencies for this building will be much less likely to add up to the amount that they're talking about. I would have to say, just to make it completely clear, when the Mama development came up, I opposed it initially because council had done no search for outside funding. And when they went out and found commitments for, I think, $4 million, I then went and voted in favour of the development. I think this development needs to be done and it has an opportunity to bring business into Albury.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac, through you. Thanks for your presentation, David. I'd love your opinion as a former councillor. I don't think that there's many people, certainly that I've heard, question the value of this project. I think the facts as you've laid them out are clear to everyone to see. The question isn't whether it would be a good thing to do, it's a question of whether we can afford to do it, especially given that the substantial cost increases that have occurred since the original grant funding, which, if memory serves, was around 2018. If we are to proceed tonight with awarding this contract, do you think it would be, I'm asking your opinion as a former councillor, do you think it would be appropriate for us to impose conditions on the motion and make amendments, for example, that would give us more control over potential cost blowouts? For example, looking at ways to de-scope the project while it's ongoing, for example, if it seems like costs will be increasing beyond what we already know. Does that make sense?
It's a highly technical question, and I'm neither a builder nor an architect. And I understand council's concerns about finances with the operating deficit that they currently have. But let's not forget it. This council is, I think there's over $200 million in the bank. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's a reason for just go ahead and do what you like. That's crazy. But this council has got 2 to 3 years for this project to go ahead. Plenty of time to start looking at other cost savings. And if it's possible, and I think provided you liaise with the developer, the builder and so on, you may be able to find savings in the ongoing process. But that's beyond my capability.
Councillor Callahan, question.
Thank you for your presentation this evening, David. I really appreciate it. You mentioned in your presentation it's a $7.8 million spend for Albury City Council on top of our $25 million grant funding that we were fortunate enough to receive as part of the then regional deal. You also mentioned costs could significantly blow out. in a $36 million project, there is a $200,000 buffer for contingencies. Do you think that is an adequate amount of money for a build of this nature? Seems.
Reading the report is the allowance for contingencies is significantly higher than that. I think in the order of $6 million. And when you're doing a project of this scale, 30 million plus, and a building as old as that, you clearly have to be reasonable. As a councillor, on a couple of occasions, I was critical of council officers because they had not, in my opinion, adequately looked at contingencies. When you start to work on an old building like this, you're not sure what you'll find. Okay, I don't think Councillor Cameron brought up Mama. It's not going to be like Mama. That was just different. But yes, there could be significant contingencies and much in excess of $200,000.
200,000 is what's in the document at the moment. Yes, there's an endorsed budget of 39.5, but what's in the documentation at the moment is looking at, yeah.
Attachment by a company, consultants with a three-name company, and I can't remember them, but in that, I'm sure they had the figure of something like $6.6 million, maybe 6.8 even.
Contingency.
And they'd actually remove that from the original cost, so that could reduce the cost of the build. Just no further questions from anyone else, but just one from me, David, in relation to your claims about Tamworth, Wollongong and Hunter Valley being in a position to have forward bookings and be well patronised. We don't have that information in our reports. Where did you access that information?
Through some online digging that I did. I don't think that that's overly important. I mentioned that they've got the seating capacity for these things, and there are conferences of that amount, that size, coming up across Australia. The one that I mentioned is an international conference. It was held in New Zealand last year. It'll be held in Melbourne this year, over 800 delegates, and not all from Australia, New Zealand, all over the world. I believe that Albury has a significant advantage over many of these places, Tamworth, Hunter Valley, Wollongong. For goodness sake, we've got the winery regions around us. We've got lots of reasons for people to come for a conference. They come here, we want them to stay for 2 and 3 and 4 days afterwards. And I think we've got better to offer than many of the other places.
Okay, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all the speakers, and we will now move into the ordinary meeting for Monday the 16th of February 2026. I'll start with the recording and live streaming. This meeting is being live streamed, recorded under Council's Code of Meeting Practice. By attending, you consent to your image and voice being recorded and published on the Albury City website. Members of the public also are reminded to refrain from making defamatory comments or disclosing personal information. Albury City is not responsible for comments made by individuals. Recordings and live streams are protected by copyright and owned by Albury City. No part may be copied, recorded, reproduced or transmitted without prior written consent of the CEO. Okay, we start with the opening affirmation. Thank you, Councillor Hudson.
We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all.
Thank you. Could I get the acknowledgement of country from Councillor Bukowski?
We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. CM3 conflict of interest declarations. I've not received any. Mr. McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Advice to the council meeting when there is a development application in the agenda. Under section 10.4 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, anyone submitting a planning application or a submission about a planning application must disclose any reportable political donation or gift of $1,000 or more made to a councillor or council employee. Disclosure forms are available on council's website, at the Customer Service Centre and at the back of the chamber. These must be lodged in line with the Act. When assessing development applications, councillors must consider the planning matters listed in section 4.151 of the Act, which are outlined in the council officer's report. Under section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993, a division must be called for every planning decision. A planning decision includes decisions made under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act relating to development applications, planning instruments, development control plans and contributions plans.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. CM4 apologies, there are none. We'll move straight to CM 4.2. Attendance by councillors at meeting by audio-visual link. There is not required. We're moving to 6.1 action plans. Councillors, thanks. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that the following action plans be received and noted. 1, actions completed since the previous meeting for noting only. 2, actions awaiting response from external parties. 3, actions in progress. And 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, did you wish to speak to that at
No,
all?
thank you.
There appears to be no questions or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. We've got confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Thank you, councillors. Councillor King.
I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, the 8th of December 2025 at 6:34 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Bullivant.
I'm happy to second it, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. I'll put those. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. I'd like to propose a procedural motion in relation to CM 7.2, the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, the 28th of January. And the reason for that is because there is an issue in relation to a confidential item in that agenda, and I'd like to give the councillors the opportunity to speak to that at the end of the meeting, so we don't have to disrupt the meeting currently. Can I have a seconder? Thanks. Councillor Cameron.
I actually would like to move it, Mayor Mac, because I don't think you should move it from the chair.
Okay, happy for you to move it, Councillor Cameron. Have you got the motion?
That council consider item CM 7.2 following the item CM 7.1 notice of urgent business to enable the potential for the matter to be considered in closed session.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, being a procedural motion, do you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mayor Mac.
Appears to be no debate or questions. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay, CM8, questions on notice Albury Waste Management. There's no motion required, but you'll see in the notes, councillors, there is a significant explanation and discussion about that. Councillor Cameron, do you wish to ask a question?
Yes, through you, Mayor Mac, to the most appropriate member of staff. As council may recall, this had its genesis in a ratepayer who contacted me, who was concerned that he had had this experience. And being a community spirited chap, he was concerned that other members of the public might have also been inadvertently charged for clean fill. Can I just, I have read the explanation several times, but it's not quite clear to me. Was anybody during that period, as well as the gentleman involved, were they also refunded their money?
Mr. Millett.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor Mac. As outlined in the response, there was $8,172 collected from ratepayers. Unfortunately, the system that we've got in the way of payments is that you cannot identify those ratepayers, so no other community members were refunded.
If I may.
Yep.
So it could be characterised by the unkind that we're in receipt of $8,000 of ill-gotten gains, therefore, or money that at least we should not have.
Mr. Millett.
Through you, Mayor Mac, and thank you for the further question. As outlined in the response, it was actually an error in the fees and charges. So the intention of the fees and charges that were adopted by council was to introduce a fee. So I believe that the fees that have been collected from our community are true and correct.
I'm forced to ask another supplementary, but we've refunded it to at least one member of the community.
Mr. Millett.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. in good faith. He highlighted an error in our system, and so in good faith, we refunded his money.
Well, Mayor Mac, I have to say that that explanation gives me no confidence. If in good faith we collect money from our residents and refund it to one of our residents, then we have a moral obligation to at least put in place a system to try and refund the rest to the other residents we collected it from. And I'd simply foreshadow that in the future, in future council meetings, I'll bring the appropriate motion to address this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Thank you, Mr. Millett. Okay, we'll move on to CM9, which is reports from community forums. There are none. CM10, notice of motion and notice of rescission. Councillor Bracken.
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to move the recommendation as a motion that council rescind resolution council meeting number 13.3 of 8 December 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, thanks. Councillor King.
Happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Glack, do you wish to speak to that? There is a speaker against.
Very briefly, to clarify that this motion is to allow council to reconsider the development or the application. It is not a decision to say that it cannot proceed or that it will proceed. It is simply to rescind the previous motion from the 8th of December so that council can consider in its entirety that application. So I'm asking councillors to consider the opportunity for us as a council to reconfirm whether or not this application should go ahead and what consent might be attached to that should we do so, or why it is that we would not be allowing that to proceed if we determined not to. It's a motion or a report later in our meeting that we would be looking at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. At the outset, I want to say very clearly that I have no issue with Councillor Glacken or any other councillor moving a rescission motion. It's perfectly in order and it's perfectly within her rights to do that, and for the seconder to second it, obviously. And she had the integrity to identify on the evening of the original motion that she was considering a rescission motion. So it's no surprise. It's simply the efflusion of time due to Christmas that we're now dealing with this. But what I'm very unhappy about, and leaving aside this issue of the notice of motion, what I'm very unhappy about is the double whammy of the report that comes later in this meeting, which talks about an option of reversing the situation. Now, if this rescission motion is passed, that's all well and good. But if this rescission motion is not passed, then the decision of council previously was to approve this development. And it would be appropriate for there to be an agenda item, given the paucity of conditions that were provided as an option to the original report in September. It would be entirely appropriate to have a report which set out the conditions to fill out and enable our previous decision to approve this application, which I believe is a very reasonable application. And what instead we have is another bite of the cherry where we're being asked to reconsider and potentially refuse again or approve again. Well, we shouldn't have to approve or refuse again because we made that decision in September, unless, of course, this rescission motion goes in the affirmative, which I'll leave to the fellow councillors to decide. Thank you.
It's actually December.
December, was it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Time has gone that quick.
Time flies.
Thank you. No further speakers for or against or questions. Councillor Glack, do you wish to close debate on your item?
Yes. In closing, I ask councillors to again consider allowing this motion to go through so we can review the application in its entirety. We asked a number of questions of the staff on that at that meeting, the 8th of December. The new report includes information pertaining to some of those questions and some of the highlighting some of the areas that we ourselves debated and discussed. So I believe that it would be a good determination of council at this stage to rescind the previous resolution, and then we review the application in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Gluckin. Happy to put that motion as a division. All those in favour? Baker, Bullivant, Bukowski, Mack, Callaghan, Hudson, Gluckin and King. Those against? Councillor Cameron. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 11, presentation deputations. There are none. CM 12.1, minutes of Sport Albury Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 19th of November. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I'd like to move the recommendation that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Sports Albury Advisory Committee, which was held on Wednesday, the 19th of November, 2025.
Thank you. Seconder, thanks. Councillor Bullivant.
Happy to second it, Mayor Mack.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you.
Councillor King, did you wish to speak to it?
Only to congratulate, I guess, the committee in allocating some of their funding and as part of the grants, noting that the proposal is to support Albury Wodonga Hockey in terms of their lighting, but very clearly steps out that is conditional upon them also being able to find some funding. So it's really good to see, I guess, a community sporting group really trying to find creative ways themselves to support what grants may be available from council. So I just wanted to note that was good to see.
Thank you. There appears to be no further question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 12.2, minutes of the Albury Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 26th of November, 2025. Councillors. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to move the recommendation as a motion that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Albury Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, 26 November 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Wait a second.
Councillor Gluckin, do you wish to speak to that at all?
Thank you.
Appears to be no questions or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 12.3, minutes of the Aboriginal Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 26th of November 2025. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I'd like to move the recommendation that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Albury Aboriginal Advisory Committee meeting, which was held on Wednesday, the 26th of November 2025.
Seconder, thanks. Councillor Bukowski.
Wait a second.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mayor Mack.
There's no questions or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 12.4, minutes of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 27th of November 2025. Councillor Callaghan.
Sure. I'd like to move the recommendation that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Albury Floodplain Risk Management Committee meeting, which was held on Thursday, the 27th of November 2025.
Councillor Bukowski.
Happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to open debate?
No, thank you.
Okay, there appears to be no further questions or debate in relation to this matter. The 8 Mile Creek report is in the minutes or in the agenda, so we'll get to discuss that later on. So I'm happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 12.5, minutes of the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting held on Monday, the 8th of December 2025. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting held on Monday, the 8th of December 2025.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, do you wish to open debate?
I'll just say briefly, the meeting that we held, we held the Sustainability Advisory Committee held a workshop to sort of essentially evaluate the focus of the committee and look at where there would be ways that the committee could work potentially more effectively. You can see in the report from these minutes that the committee has determined that we will be essentially using each 2 monthly meeting to address a different theme, because obviously there are so many topics of interest in this space. And so by having a different theme at each meeting, it enables a more focused discussion and a more efficient use of time. So I just draw councillors' attention to that in the report, and if there's any particular issues that interest them, that they would of course be welcome to come along as an observer to the meetings. Yeah.
Thank you. In relation to that, you see that would be a better use of resources and staff time as well if they have a specific theme that they can speak to on those different occasions.
I think that's fair to say, because if committee members have specific questions for staff, the staff do an excellent job of doing presentations to the meetings. Today, for example, we actually had the meeting for February this afternoon, and we had two excellent presentations from the staff, which took a deep dive into the process of amending the LEP and the DCP and looking at our engineering guidelines. So I think having those focused themes does mean that the staff have, I suppose, more time to prepare.
Are they in alignment with the strategy of council?
In what sense, sorry?
Are the themes in alignment with the strategic direction of council?
So the workshop that was undertaken in October allowed the members of the committee to look at a huge number of topics, whether they be themes, strategies, issues, and identify the priority areas. And so that's how that those themes were selected.
Okay, there appears to be no further question or debate. Happy to put the item. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you. 12.6 minutes of the Albury Aquatics Advisory Committee, 9th of December 2025, 2020. Councillors? Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that Council receives, notes and accepts the minutes of the Albury Aquatic Facilities Advisory Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 9th of December 2025.
Thank you. Councillor Baker?
Happy to second that, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, do you wish to speak to that at all?
Not really, Mayor Mac. I think that the councillors can read the minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. There appears to be no further question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. CM13 documents for sealing. Councillor Callaghan?
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I'd like to move the recommendation that Council authorises its seal to be affixed to the documents outlined below in the presence of two signatories authorised to affix the seal pursuant of Regulation 400 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, and that Council seal and management of legal document and advice procedure. A, Albury City deed of lease to PR Curtis and CN Klein, 89 Merivale Way, Thurgoona, 5 years commencing the 16th of October 2025, open brackets FIL 10/02641 close bracket. And B, that Albury City Council lease to Optus at Mowat Place, Lavington, 2 by 5 year lease commencing on the 1st of September 2025, open bracket FIL 09/00224 close bracket, with the exception of the following, which will be held over until a later date, which is C, Albury City Council lease to Albury 1908 TA Canvas Eatery at 546 Dean Street, Albury, with a commencement date to be confirmed, open bracket FIL 14/02340 close bracket. Thank you.
So the motion will represent A and B.
Correct.
Could we have that on the screen before we open? I'll take a second to Councillor Cameron.
Yes, Mayor Mac.
Happy to second?
Yes, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Glacken. Do you wish to ask your question, Councillor Glacken, before we open any
I
debate?
would love to ask my question. My question is with reference to C, what was the date? And clearly it's not being dealt with at this time, but what would that date be and for what duration? Will that come to us at a future meeting or perhaps a presentation to the councillors? I'm conscious of the
Mr. Millett, I believe. Is that your question? Yes.
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. Yes, the date will be part of a future request to council for adopting these sealing of documents. There's also a request from the proponent to review some of the lease arrangements that just came through at the end of last week. So we'll hold over. We'll have those discussions with the proponent as well.
Thank you. Just one from me, Mr. Millett, while you're there, why was it presented in its current form if it wasn't finalised? I'm a little bit confused about that.
Thank you for the question, and just apologies. So it was put in there as a holding item and we didn't update it. So apologies for that.
Okay, fair enough. Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to open debate on the item?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, no questions or further debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. We've got CM14 Officer Report for consideration, 14.1 Development Application 10.2025.41401.1, 2 lot Torrens Tidal Subdivision 843 Pearsall Street, Hamilton Valley. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Mayor Mac, I'd like to move an alternative motion that's being sent through to Ros. Should be getting that up. Thank you, Ros.
Thank you.
Emailed it. It's option 1 in the papers. I can read it to you, Ros, if you'd like. Is that okay? Apologies.
Okay. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac, and thank you, Ros. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I'd like to move the motion that we approve the application subject to the conditions of consent included in the draft determination attached to this report. With consideration to the resolution made at the 8th of December 2025 council meeting, conditions of consent have been prepared and can be found in attachment 9 should council resolve to approve the development application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron.
I'd like to second this very good motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And bear with me. You might need to start the timer. I think we really need to frame this decision properly. The decision was made under Section 4.5 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, which requires to assess the planning controls, the zoning, the environmental impacts, and the public interest. And that's what I'm going to talk to this evening. We are not required to assess preference. We are required to assess compliance on merit. This land is zoned R1 general residential, and subdivision into 2 lots is permissible with consent. The proposal exceeds the minimum lot size requirement. There were no public submissions were received to date. So the starting point is that this is permissible development in the correct zone. The reason for the refusal 1, which was clause 7.6, which is essential services. The refusal argues that essential services are not satisfied. Well, I would suggest they are available and there are adequate arrangements made to make them available. Water is available, electricity is available, access is available. Stormwater can be managed on site. The only point of contention really here is the sewer. The statement of environmental effects includes a land capability assessment confirming the site can accommodate an on-site sewage management system. Clause 7.6 does not mandate connection to reticulated sewer. It requires adequacy. On-site sewage management are lawful infrastructure and they are regulated and they are commonly approved. The evidence before us demonstrates adequate arrangements have been made. Therefore, clause 7.6 can also be satisfied. Reason 2 for refusal was alleged inconsistency with the LEP aims. The refusal claims the proposal is inconsistent with the aims of the local environmental plan. The objectives of the R1 general residential zone include providing housing diversity, and facilitating residential development. This proposal creates one additional residential lot in a residential zone. It contributes to housing supply, it complies with the minimum lot size, and it's modest in scale. It does not undermine strategic planning, it implements it. If land zoned R1 cannot accommodate a compliant residential lot, we must question, what does the zoning intend? The third reason for refusal was the covenant. There is a legal restriction on land called a covenant. The covenant was put in place to manage development and infrastructure over time. Council has the power to suspend that covenant if the development is appropriate. This proposal creates one additional lot. It is not a large subdivision. It is not high-density development. It is not urban intensification. It is one extra residential lot in land that is already zoned residential. This lot meets the minimum size requirements. It can be serviced, and any future dwelling would still need to come back to council for approval, which was stated in the feedback we received from Habitat Planning. So approving this subdivision does not remove council's control. The covenant is not an absolute ban on development. It is a tool to manage development, and in this case, suspending it for one additional compliant lot is reasonable and lawful. We need to reflect, I think, as well on the suitability of the site. It is over 6 hectares in size, already contains dwellings, has existing access points, is on the urban fringe. It is not flood prone. It is supported by a bushfire assessment, and it's also supported by land capability assessment. The test is not whether it's ideal, the test is whether it's suitable. The evidence demonstrates suitability. Is this in the public interest? Yeah, it is. And I think that was proven at our last debate when it was a 7-2 vote. It is an orderly and economic use of land, is consistent with zoning, it improves housing supply, and it demonstrates fair and consistent decision-making. There were no objections from the community, and approving a permissible subdivision in a residential zone does not fragment planning, it applies it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Two questions. Councillor Blacken first.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the most relevant member of staff. During a presentation prior to the council meeting, we were told that the sewer access was greater than the 70 metres as stated in the report by our staff. It was refuted. Where is the, from our staff's perspective, where would the 70-metre access for sewer connection be located? And why is it that the applicant believes that to be untrue?
Mr.
I have a
Christian.
few questions, thank you.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor Max, the 70 metres is from the boundary of the site as the site currently exists.
Okay, yeah, all right. And there's no actual development building, so thank you. Yep.
Did you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Would it have been possible for the applicant to apply for subdivision as well as a development application for a building?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor Mac. Yes, an application could have included a dwelling, but it's also not unusual for a subdivision application not to include the dwelling.
Okay, thank you. And one further, page 28 in services, the second paragraph from the bottom. The proposal relies on servicing infrastructure that would terminate within or traverse land not owned by the applicant without evidence of affected landowners' consent, etc. Can that be explained to me, please?
Mr. Christie.
In this instance.
Thank you for the question again, and for you, Mayor Max. So some of the servicing requirement needs to traverse another parcel of land, extension of an easement. So that's where that is in context to.
What services?
I'll just take that on question and then get back to you, just to be precise.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a speaker for, but two more with questions. Councillor King, question.
Thank you. We heard in the presentation the New South Wales have got updated guidelines for wastewater disposal, a more modern framework, and which is there's the suggestion that it's low risk. I would love, through you to the most relevant member of staff, to give an alternate perspective on what councillors have heard in relation to that.
Mr. Christie.
Yeah. Again, thank you for the question and for you, Mayor Mack. And on this, I would have to rely upon the staff of other staff within council. So when a development application comes through to council, obviously get referred to a variety of areas within council. In this case, the land capability assessments do go to our environmental health officer teams. So I admit I could not answer that question myself without seeking some further advice from them as to what meant by some differences. Our advice in that place from a planning was provided from the advice internally, similar to traffic, environmental and other matters.
Okay. Speaker for Councillor Cameron, got one more question. Happy for me to take it?
Absolutely. I'm ecstatic.
Thank you. Councillor Billman, question? No?
No.
Button was depressed. Councillor Cameron.
Thank
Speaking
you,
for.
Mayor Mack. Councillors, as I foreshadowed during the debate on the rescission motion, I'm none too happy with the way this has played out. I believe our residents equally, and the proponents are equally, if not more, entitled to be very unhappy, for which I apologise earlier tonight for my own part. This is degenerating into farce, in my opinion. It is something that is more fitting to be found in Franz Kafka's The Castle or an episode out of the Democratic Republic of Germany, which for those old enough will know that that was East Germany, the communist state in which mindless bureaucracy was a hallmark. It would be an absolute travesty tonight if we were to overturn the decision that was rightfully made in December, I'm reliably informed, and reverse this position now. There is all the evidence necessary to give us confidence to proceed, I believe, and we should do the correct thing and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for your interesting response.
Elucidating is the word you want.
Yeah.
There, I think, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor King, question.
Yeah, apologies. I should have pushed it earlier while we were having that discussion through you to the most relevant member of staff. We've also heard from the applicant today saying that their land capability documents confirms no risk to waterways, which does seem a complete contradiction to what our officers have suggested. Do you offer a comment on that, please?
Mr. Christie.
Thanks for the question. And again, for you, Mayor Mack, again, with my preface earlier, in terms of my comments of I didn't undertake the assessment, we'll apply it on our environmental health officers who advised us they had concerns about the suitability of the land capability assessment and some of the conclusions within the land capability assessment. There is some discussion on that, both a tiny bit in the small addendum report, but obviously some more detailed discussion on that in the original council report for the 8th of December council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Follow-up question, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So that, to follow up on Councillor King's question, that suitability is dependent upon the slope of the land, is my understanding, or that's one of the components. And in the report, it tells us that due to the slope of the land, the 34 metres available is not sufficient as the 40 metres is required. Is that such an example?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor Mack, yes, that's a similar example that our previous advice was that there were some minimums, and this did meet the minimums, but with consideration to the site characteristics, which includes slope, that our environmental office didn't believe meeting the minimum was sufficient in that respect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Thank you, Councillor Glacken. No further speakers for or against or questions. Speaker against, Councillor King.
Look, I admit I was one of the councillors who had the best of intentions in trying to find a new way forward for this application. I think it's incumbent upon us all to sort of look past whatever red tape might be there, that we, what can we do, what can we manoeuvre? So I'm certainly one of the councillors that approved, but then sort of brought it back for more discussion because I felt that I needed to take a deeper dive into the application. And now that I do have the additional context that's provided by our team, I'm really not prepared to go against their advice. And really, there were many concerns, but the reference that really does concern me is the disposal and management of sewage. And that council cannot be satisfied that the land is capable of sustainably accommodating effluent disposal. And I do hear an alternate point of view, but I do appreciate that there is an obligation to manage risk to public health and the environment, and our officers have very clearly pointed this out over a couple of reports. So that for me means that I'm not prepared to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor King. No speakers for. Another speaker against, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I speak against this motion from Councillor Callaghan because primarily the sewage and the on-site sewage management. I would otherwise approve this subdivision. I would feel much greater comfort if either the sewage was going to be the reticulated sewage, or if the application had come through with the dwelling being applied for at the same time. And I couch this in terms of, I think it's admirable for anyone to be looking after their children, wanting to include them on such a property. Absolutely, I have no issue with that. I think that is such a lovely, lovely sentiment. It is simply the enabling of that. I'm also mindful that there is risk to these, the two components of this family in undertaking this process, this staged process. The risk is that there is no way forward using the on-site managed sewage management system or system management. However, clearly that's a risk that this family is willing to take. I am mindful that should it not be approved in the future, the development application, clearly they're going to put in an application at some stage for a dwelling. And if that is not approved, then perhaps, or at that stage, sewerage may need to be reassessed again. I'm also mindful that this is a short-term stopgap measure, because ultimately the R1 zone is really there for dwellings, for residents, for our community to grow and develop. And one of the issues with this development is that it will divide the property into another lot and not allow necessarily for future growth and development in a residential sense because of the on-site sewage management system. And so I'm yet to consider whether I will vote against or for this motion, but at the moment I'm thinking it is inappropriate to allow this application to go forward based on us not having a plan for the actual residence that would be built there. As I said earlier, I would have much preferred to have that as part of the application process. I'm conscious of the big picture and that longer term for development in that, continuing in that R1 zone into the future. And I'm concerned with how this development will be able to be enabled in the future, and it will be a risk to the people involved. So I don't think I will be able to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Speaker 4, Councillor Bullivant.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mac. Through you. Only on the 8th of December, we voted on the council resolution, went 7-2 on the vote. The councillors to my left is Councillor Baker, we're the two that voted against the motion at the time because there was no conditions of development, no conditions of consent put on the application. So we thought about it and we saw the rescission motion come through. My concerns are that it's 2026 and septic and/or sewage treatments have come a long way. And on the southern side of Pearsall Street, most of the houses in that area are on a septic system anyway. So there are precedents of that style in that area. So we're comparing apples and eggs here. It's an application that somebody wants to put on their R1 zoned area, and it's going to have a sewage reticulation program. So we don't know the full outsets of it, but there's also the opportunities to get all those systems pumped if they need to be, if there's an effluent building up. So I can't see why we preclude somebody from putting in a modern system against an area that's got 20 or 30 older systems. So I think we're just comparing a bit hard here with apples and eggs. We just need to be conscious of what we're doing. If the development application meets all the proceeds it needs to meet, well, I think we have a chance to give somebody, a resident, a bit of opportunity to possibly develop their land in the future. But it's a modern system. So I think with the modern systems I've seen in the septic world, and the person that installs them lives in that area anyway. So I think that we should look at this favourably, because it is a good opportunity to get these people a opportunity to develop their land in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Bulvin. There appears to be no further speakers against or questions. Just to finish up, and taking from the debate that has occurred, and Councillor Callaghan, I will go due to close. You can be a bit impatient at times. This is my right to speak. Did you want to speak too? Okay, so in relation to this debate that we've had in the chamber, I find it quite interesting that we're relying upon point 2 in the report, on-site waste disposal and management, because in the last paragraph, it says, accordingly, council is not satisfied that the proposal adequately provides for a compliant and functional reserve effluent application area, and maintains that the current assessment approach is consistent with the guidelines, maintains council policy and risk management principles. So, as indicated by the previous speaker, there are over a surplus amount of septics on the southern side of Pearsall Street. The site involved is 7 or 8 hectares, and 6 of those hectares haven't been occupied or applied in relation to any further development. The sewer is on the other side of the road, which is not on the borderline of the property, and essentially it applies to the housing below on the northern side. More importantly, if there were any further development on that site and further sites within the valley, I'm confident that it would be the approach that council would include sewer, which then would give the people who are on different systems the option to connect. The other thing you need to be mindful of is that whilst they may have septics, they still pay an access fee for sewage, which is really novel because they contribute to our growth at the same time. But more importantly, just to consider that as a reason not to approve this application, I think is folly, because I think, again, the precedent has already been set. And it's raised at different levels that if we approve this application, there'll be a precedent. There's already septics in the valley. And back in the day when Grady Hume looked after Lavington, they had long drops for many years before Albury could catch up and provide them with quality sewage connection and water connection. So look, I see this as a great opportunity for us to support what's already existing, but in a more, as Councillor Bulvin indicated, a more advanced and more professional environment. But I don't know about the apples and eggs analogy, but I support the motion because I think it has merit and is speaking from a common sense perspective. Councillor Callaghan, would you like to close, or do you want me to interrupt you?
No, thank you. I'd like to
Okay.
close. I thought I was going to miss the opportunity. And I suppose just following on from Councillor King and Councillor Glacken's comments, the 2025 guidelines, which were shared with us, which are in our documents, the 2025 guidelines establish setbacks ranges, not fixed minimums, for intermittent water bodies with secondary treatment and subsurface applications. The applicable range is between 15 to 40 metres, and the setback at Pearsall Street is 34 metres. Where the LCA assessed all relevant constraint factors, effluent quality, which was low, drainage, flood potential, slope application method, which were minimal limitations, fall direction were mitigated by secondary treatment and subsurface application. The 34-metre setback falls appropriately within the required range and is justified by the risk-based assessment. And also on that, the insufficient setback from dwelling slope, as discussed about runoff, the 2025 guidelines establish a setback range of 2 to 6 metres for dwellings. All relevant constraint factors fall within this low category, again for Pearsall Street, with secondary effluent quality, slope at less than 30% for subsurface dispersal, subsurface application method, a 3-metre building setback complies with the 2025 guidelines. It should also be noted that the building envelope shown in the submitted LCA is indicative only. A proposed dwelling has not been applied for this at this stage, but would need to comply with guidelines if they were to move forward with a separate development application. So in closing, the proposal at Pearsall Street is permissible within the zone. It meets the minimum lot size. It provides adequate servicing arrangement. It's supported by the technical assessments, which we've all received in our documentation. It has no public objection. It is modest in scale, which I discussed earlier. It's consistent with the public interest. And for those reasons, I could not support a refusal, and I'm hoping my fellow councillors can also see fit to approve the subdivision. I'll be supporting the approval of this development application to subdivide, remembering that any future dwelling would still need to come back to council for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. I'm happy to put the motion as a division. Those in favour? Councillors Bullivant, Bukowski, Cameron, Mack, Callaghan and Hudson. Those against? Councillor Baker, Councillor Gluck and Councillor King. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 14.2 Development Application 102 2025 41462.1 alterations, additions of dwelling, outbuilding and garage at 572 Electra Street, East Albury. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Bullivant.
I think I'd like to put a alternate motion up, please.
Yes, have you got it ready for the screen?
It's ready for the screen, and the councillors have been forwarded the courtesy of being afforded to them.
Thank you, Councillor Bullivant.
Thank you. That Council A receives the contents of this report and B refuses development application 10.2025.4146.2.1 for alterations and additions to existing dwelling and a 2-storey detached home, office and garage development proposed on Lot 5 in DP 38843, situated at 572 Electra Street, East Albury, for the following reasons. 1, the application does not achieve the aims of the Albury Local Environment Plan to promote a city for the people with a high level of social and physical amenity and a diversity of activities and uses by virtue of amenity impacts upon neighbouring residents, use of enjoyment of their amenity, of their property, and therefore is contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 brackets 1 brackets alpha brackets I of the Environment Planning Assessment Act 1979. 2, the application does not comply with the objectives of Part 10, Division D of Albury Development Control Plan 2010 to create responsible amenity for occupants of dwelling houses and secondary dwellings without causing unreasonable impact to neighbours' amenity. 1, inadequate landscaping is provided for residents of the site to maintain reasonable amenity, brackets Division D, Clause 2, Alpha I, bracket. 2, inadequate building separation has been provided to avoid impacts to adjoining landowners, brackets Division D, Clause 2, apostrophe C, bracket. 3, excessive impact caused by the proposed 6-metre high wall within a 200 millimetre of the side boundary, Division D, Clause 2C 8, and the proposal is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 Alpha 3 of the Environment Planning Assessment Act 1979. And 3, the development will have an adverse impact upon the amenity of the surrounding area and adjoining neighbours, having regard to submissions made in respect to the application and therefore is contrary to the provision of section 4.151D of the Environment Planning and Assessment Act 1979.
Thank you, Councillor Bullivant. Councillor King.
Happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Bullivant, did you wish to open debate?
Thank you, Mayor Mack. As I've seen tonight, I've seen a number of residents within that vicinity come and express their concerns about the proposed development. I will only look at the development as per my amendment as to the rules that are applied as point of law in our LEP and our development control plan. So for those reasons, I'm looking at where we need to be with this, and I think with the 6.5 metre wall on the eastern boundary is a pretty big ask in that particular area. So on those grounds, I'm going to try and get this motion up, and I'm looking for my support of my fellow councillors just on the simple fact that we have the planning tools to be able to approve and refuse developments. So this is one of the reasons I put it up for refusal.
Thank you. I have a speaker for, but 2 questions. Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff, I've got, I think it's 3 questions. The first one is there was a speaker, Catherine Stewart, who raised an issue of a 6-metre high wall and made reference to it not being permissible with reference to an ancillary building in an R1 zone, I think is my memory of the claim. Is that correct?
Mr.
Can that be explained?
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor Mac, but in terms of permissibility, more around whether it complied with the requirements of the DCP, Development Control Plan. As we know, Development Control Plan is there to guide council's decisions, but it doesn't create permissibilities or impermissibilities.
And so how does it lay with the 6 metres then, with the DCP?
Yep. Thank you for the question again, and for you, Mayor Mac. So it has identified in the cover assessment report, there are a number of bits of areas of non-compliance with our DCP, and that is one of the areas of non-compliance.
Okay, thank you. Someone else raised, it might have been Ms. Stewart again, the percentage of the building with reference to the size of the land. Can that be explained, please? And there was, I think there was a question I noticed you took, you were going to do some calculation. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for the question for you, Mayor Mac, and yes, relates to the question from Councillor Cameron I took on notice. So the overall development is 134 square metres in total. That includes 103 square metres of area that would be calculated as gross floor area because it's enclosed by walls at least 1.4 metres in height on all sides. It also does include 31 square metres of the existing carport, which doesn't count as gross floor area as it's not enclosed on all sides by 1.4 metres, doesn't meet the definition of gross floor area. And also the compliance control, which that was referred to, talks about the maximum gross floor area of a shed or garage, which again considers around a building enclosed on all 4 sides, as opposed to just on 2 or 3 sides. So in that respect, from the definitions there, it would equal 103 square metres, which is around equivalent to that 60% of the gross floor area of the dwelling, which I believe, and apologies if I misquote, was around 105 or 107 square metres from the example provided.
Okay,
Follow up.
thank you. One more question. There was one of the speakers referred to a number of different councils in New South Wales and their requirements. I think Waverley was one of them, and a couple of other councils. How does that affect what we're looking at here in Albury? And also there was a reference made to microclimate, and that's because of the height, I think it was the height, the slope and the proximity of their building to that building. Can that be explained to us or referenced to us, please? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor Mac, in regards to the first component about either non-compliance with other controls, obviously we assess it against council controls that are relevant. There was some discussion around some various court cases that provide some context for councils to make decisions, especially in those areas where, as we know, planning contains a fair amount of grey area or subjectivity. And so those court cases can help provide some guidance or some frameworks, some parameters around how you utilise your discretion in those spaces. They're not obviously legally binding as such, but they provide some guidance for council, especially where you're dealing in that subjectivity component. So in regards to then the context of microclimate, obviously there are a variety of things which go to a microclimate, including prevailing climatic conditions such as winds, temperature, rainfall, a whole variety of components, but then even separation around how elements are, relativity of heights of structures and the like. So our assessment of it, that we don't believe it had an unreasonable impact. Obviously, with any form of development, there is a degree of impact for development, but our assessment was there was no unreasonable impact from the proposed development.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Question, Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor Mac, through you to the most relevant member of staff. We had a really interesting presentation from a landowner, and he made a really good point that access to that property for whatever reason, construction, repairs, maintenance, would be through his private land. So do we have, just from, I may have been in there, you may have provided a response, but just from my understanding, can you offer me a response to that? A, it's accurate, and B, do we think that that is reasonable?
Mr. Christie.
Yep. And thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor Mac, the applicant hasn't proposed to access through adjoining properties in this respect. And obviously there are construction methodologies that can take place, and we've all seen construction occurring within very tight spaces where no access is available from adjoining properties. Obviously there's simplistic forms, or simpler and easier, less complex forms of construction, but there is no requirement. And if council was to grant consent, there's no expectation on the owner to provide access through them for construction. It would be up to the developer or the applicant to work out through with their construction certificate process how they would construct and maintain their activities on site. If they required access over the adjoining person's property, then they would require that and that permission prior to that occurring.
Thank you. Another question from that. Thank you. And also in relation to the applicant who gave us a simulation of view loss from her living area. And I think when you can sort of see it in the format that we've seen, it sort of really hits you in the face and you really go, wow, that just sort of looking at that looks unacceptable to me. From a planning perspective, are you again reinforcing that it's an acceptable outcome, or is that overstating what we've seen from her perspective? Can you offer some clarity on that, please?
Yeah, Mr. Christie. Yep, thank you for the question. And again, for you, Mayor Mac, and obviously there are a variety of components, and it's not for council officers to say what is acceptable or not acceptable. Obviously, we provide a level of advice to the council when you'll make decision around our interpretation and what we believe therefore complies with the requirements or not. And there is a reasonably detailed assessment around that components. That fuel loss is one of those ones where you do start to lean into a little bit of that case law and where things have occurred from elsewhere to start to give you some ideas and in level consideration around those levels impacts are, because it's not a case of one size fits all, there in those scenarios. So we've again done a reasonably detailed assessment within the assessment report that indicates, yes, there will be some impact for view loss, but we didn't believe that it was a totality of impact, and therefore there was some reasonableness to that impact. But that again is advice for councillors to assist you in your decision making.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Christie. Councillor Callahan, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mac, through to the most relevant staff member, Mr. Christie. It's noted in the in the reports that the proponent has undergone several and substantial amendments to refine in response to council's feedback to minimise impacts on existing neighbourhood, character bulk, setbacks, heights, it goes on. Can you probably elaborate a little bit more about how that's evolved to where we're at today?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor Mac, obviously council decision still needs to be made on what's before us. Obviously not the evolution of the journey that's really noted for consideration, but one of those impacts, for example, or likes is cutting it into the site some more. So rather than just building it flat on the slope and elevating it, there's been some cutting into the site and lowering of the building as a result from the original application. A set of plans was lodged with the application.
Thank you, Mr. Christie.
No further questions. Any more speakers for or against? Councillor King speaking against.
Oh, no, I'm not. Elbow. Wrong button. Speaking for.
Speaking for.
For this, yes, correct. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to initially thank Councillor Bullivant. He's obviously worked with the team to put forward a motion that we're able to stand behind as another perspective, and we're often told that planning is not black and white and it is subjective. So I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate members of the public forum for again highlighting some areas that councillors should really consider in their decision making. I must admit, when I read the initial report, when I sort of noted that the proposal substantially exceeds the maximum wall height, I went, well, it's really challenging, I think, for community when we have guidelines and then when sort of things are recommended to perhaps be contrary to those guidelines. I do think it is a bit uneasy for people when they're making plans, when they're buying properties and they have a reasonable expectation of what might be around them. But I must admit, sort of a proposal that substantially exceeds the maximum wall height of 3 metres has been clearly demonstrated, and I certainly have some concerns there. So that was a major one, and I think there were some really good arguments that were brought forward from our speakers today, of which I've mentioned, and so have others. So I'm happy to stand by Councillor Bullivant's motion here, and yeah, happy to defend it should we need to.
Thank you. No speakers against. Speaker for, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I'll just speak briefly in support of this motion. I think that I'm very sympathetic to the proponent that they feel that they have met the objectives of the Development Control Plan. The Development Control Plan has numerical guidelines in it for things like setback, wall height, and so forth, and variations can be allowed to them provided that the performance objectives are achieved. And again, as I say, I'm sympathetic to the proponent that they feel they've achieved those objectives. But in my view, and as I think well articulated in the motion, the cumulative impact of all of the variations is, I think, more than I can support. So in that sense, I will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. There appears to be no further speakers for or against. Just a question, Mr. Christian, I was just trying to look it up on the tracker, but there was a DA that related to a property in Downside Street. Do you recall that property, Mr. Christian?
I think the question being Mayor Mac, 282 off the top of my head,
and
Downside Street, and about
and
early
there
last
was
year.
submissions in relation to amenity in relation to that property. Is it, unlike Councillor Bullivant's comment about apples and eggs, is it a consistent approach that I believe the submitters were very concerned about the amenity and their lack of view and the intrusion of that development, but I understand that development was part of the house, entirety of the house. Can you explain the difference there in terms of what was quoted as case law tonight versus other case law I've seen in particularly Sydney, where views are not considered as a reason to refuse?
Yep. Thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor Mac, and yes, as I said, it was 282 Downside. And there are some, in some ways, the case law, as was said before, is there to help guide council decision making. So in some ways, it's not as relevant a point if it's attached to the dwelling or not. It more looks at your design elements, what thoughtfulness and the like has gone into those design elements, what consideration has gone into how you may be able to mitigate or minimise the impacts, and also what might be a reasonable expectation, because there'll be some blocks of land, and not using this one as an example, where there'll be no ability to avoid an impact. Doesn't matter even if you fully complied with a development control plan. So that type of stuff does get into it. In regards to the general components around Sydney, as you mentioned, there's discussion around iconic views. The cases are for Sydney, so they do talk about things such as the Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge as iconic views. Obviously, we don't have an Opera House or a Harbour Bridge here, but we do have our own local icons, such as you would say Monument Hill. Would be considered somewhere that you consider an iconic view, and that one at 282 Downside was one where we considered the impacts upon that view and consideration of what the impacts were. And you also may recall we've been dealing with an application for a period of time there in Pemberton Street, which also had potential for impacts on views towards Monument, and where those views occur becomes quite an element of that. In one case, view different from a lounge room, And a view is different from a bedroom versus obviously a kitchen or a toilet or a laundry room as well. So there's a lot of factors that go into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Okay, Councillor Billivan, did you wish to close debate on your item?
Just a couple of quick closing notes. Thank you, Mayor Mac. Firstly, I thank the fellow councillors for their questions and comments about this particular development. I look at the proponents and I look at the residents, and my job as a councillor when putting these motions up is firstly to seek the right advice from the planning department and get the right information before you put a motion forward. And I think this is a good motion has been put forward on the simple planning part of it. So in finishing up, I just commend this motion to the councillors, and hopefully I can get some support from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Billivan. Okay, I'm happy to put that motion as a division. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Councillor Billivan, Councillor Bukowski, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Mack, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Glacken, and Councillor King. And those against? Councillor Callaghan. The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, 14.3 development application 10.2023.39971.1 40 lot Torrens title subdivision and vegetation removal Black Springs Estate 647 Chance Street, Lavington. Thank you, councillors. Don't beat me. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that Council A receives the contents of this report and B grants consent to the development application 10.2023.39971.1 subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination, including attachment 9 to this report.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, do you wish to open debate on that item?
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question from Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. I note in the report that it does indicate that the proponent has amended the original design in order to mitigate some level of tree loss, including the loss of hollow-bearing trees. However, with that said, there's still a loss of 11 hollow-bearing trees and other trees proposed. I note that there seems to be a particular sort of stand of about 5 hollow-bearing trees that appear to be either within the road itself, the proposed road, the road reserve, or very close to the boundaries of some of the blocks around the intersection. So it would be lots sort of 29, 30, 31, 27 and 25. If you follow where I'm speaking about. Was there any discussion with the proponent in relation to not having that particular intersection there in order to avoid the impacts on those trees?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question. And for you, Mac, yes, there were some discussions with the proponent around the necessity for tree removal in totality across the site and what improvements and changes might be able to occur to minimise that tree removal. And so that's why, in essence, it's those which are contained within the road reserve. And there are some general constraints just around the topography of the site and the like, where around the best designs can fit in for those road intersections. That from their end, that's what they then came back to us for, and then we need to make a final decision on. But yes, we definitely did discuss with the applicant around the opportunities to reduce and redesign, and there were some redesigns that occurred, but not that intersection.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up question.
Yep.
I note that some of the lots where there are hollow-bearing trees to be retained, for example, lot 22, lot 18, and what appears to be lot 17 as well. What obligation on the future owners of those lots would there be, if any, to retain the hollow-bearing trees on those sites?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mac. Sorry, no formal or legal obligation. Obviously, from our end, there was no need to remove that vegetation as part of this subdivision. and there could be an opportunity for future landowners to be able to design their dwellings accordingly and potentially keep that vegetation on site. But in terms of being legally obligated through this consent, as we've proposed for them to be maintained in perpetuity, no, there's no proposed obligation, but there is that opportunity with them being retained for a landowner to potentially retain them on site.
Sure. So, does council have any options, hypothetically speaking, to impose controls on those trees so that they are more likely to be retained by future landowners? I suppose my question is, these are large blocks. They're sort of in the 1,100 kind of square meter range, the ones that I'm specifically referring to. But people like to have big flat gardens and build big houses, and trees are, sadly, in my view, seemingly viewed as relatively incompatible with that. So, are there any hypothetical controls that council would be able to impose to retain those trees?
Mr. Christie.
Yep. Thank you for the question again for you and for you, Mayor Mac. Yes, there are. Probably the most planning used one would be a covenant, where we could impose a covenant on the site requiring the retention of vegetation. We would have to obviously identify significantly what that is. Wouldn't be applied across all the sites, and that would then become relevant if they were to lodge a development application that would then request removal of that vegetation. They would then have to ask us to vary that covenant. It couldn't just be varied by themselves. So that would be the normal planning mechanism. The other option might be to request the imposition of a building envelope on the site, and for that building envelope to be a minimum distance from that vegetation. And obviously it'll be around making certain that still allows practically a dwelling to go on site. And there'll be some potential impacts from that. And that's not to say down the track, obviously, that they may not be able to mount an argument around safety or the like that may necessitate removal of those trees into the future. But that would be the two mechanisms: a building envelope potentially, which would be for an 88B as well, and or a restriction on site.
So were either of those things considered in this case then?
Thank you for the question. And for you, Mac, yes, they were definitely considered by council staff, but with consideration, as we said, to the potential components of what that means, they weren't recommended by council staff.
Sorry, I don't really. I understand they weren't recommended, but I didn't understand. Sorry, the first part of that sentence. Could you?
Yep. So further elaborate. Sorry, in regards to why council staff didn't recommend for the imposition of an 88B to require the retention of that vegetation.
Yeah.
So with consideration to council staff, while we understand the removal of the vegetation, we didn't believe it was necessary from our end to require the imposition of a covenant to require retention into the future, because there could be some issues into the future depending on what may be, if that vegetation is retained and where dwellings may be or the like into the site.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of speakers I just want to ask, just to clarify, Mr. Christie, we're approving a subdivision on the basis that trees be retained, and then that doesn't precede what happens after that. I would have thought that once the lots are determined, which they are in this diagram, when the trees are protected by the subdivision order, that precedes anything that happens after that. So if I'm building a house, then the tree is protected. Is that not the case?
Thank you for the question for you, Mayor Mac. At this stage, we're not proposing to protect the trees. They haven't asked for those trees to be removed, and we're not granting permission for their removal.
That's right. So that anyone building on those envelopes would have to ask for that removal, which would be another step in the process.
That would be correct, but that's different to protecting the tree in perpetuity, requiring its retention on site, as opposed to having someone having the option with either development application or compliant development certificate down the track seeking removal of the tree. That's different to protecting and requiring retention on the tree, which was Councillor Hudson's question.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Yes, I speak for this motion. Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for moving this. Clearly, we know that we need to enable growth and development in our city. We are one of, if not the fastest growing a regional inland city in New South Wales. We need to ensure that we have good developments, good land. It's clear from this report, and might I note this is some time in the making, that this application has been going through the processes. The applicant has made a significant effort through working with the staff, and thank you to the team, to ensure that what was originally 20 hollow bearing trees has been almost halved down to 11 hollow bearing trees. That is a significant change. If ever there was a significant change and attempt made by a developer, this is it. So I support this on the basis that it is good development. It's not rushed. It's done in consultation with the team, and it does consider the livability in our wonderful city, really looking at some of the questions that were asked previously. Yes, trees are very important, and clearly this developer has acknowledged that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gleck. And no speakers against. Speaker for, Councillor Callaghan.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I think this is a really great step in the right direction. I think we've made it quite clear over the years. We're looking at our urban forest strategy as well, and I think this really talks to that. And I think I look at the East Albury estate, the new one post the hospital, and there's some beautiful big old trees there that really add to the livability. And I'm sure many of the people that are buying those blocks are buying it because of some of the trees that are already existing there. So it's a step in the right direction, and I'll be happy to support the development application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. No speakers for or against. Councillor Cameron, do you wish to close debate?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As I've observed before in this chamber, my ancestors stopped worshipping trees about 1600 years ago.
Do you need them to breathe?
And I'm not inclined to be attracted to the current resurgence in tree worship. There's not a house in Albury when it was built, of all the houses in the region, and indeed most rural cities, if not all, that didn't require the removal of trees to be built. And everybody who occupies a dwelling in Albury does so at the expense of trees. Trees are not immortal and trees are not irreplaceable. Trees grow back in other places. Additional trees can be planted and are planted, and other trees fill the void. It's not a logical situation to treat them as some sort of religious icon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Bullivant, Bukowski, Cameron, Mack, Callaghan, Hudson, Glacken and King. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. 14.4, Development Application 102022.39875.1, 426 Lot Torrens Title Subdivision, Vegetation Removal and Planning Agreement for Local Recreation Park, Williams Road Estate, Stages 1 to 8, 65 Williams Road, Thaguna. Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I move that Council A receives the contents of this report. B, grants consent to development application 10.2022.39875.1 for a 426 (426) close brackets lot title subdivision, vegetation removal and planning agreement for local recreational park 2 brackets LRP2 close brackets dash Williams Road Estate Stages 1-8 comma subject to conditions contained in the draft notice determination comma included as attachment 8 to this report semicolon. C, accepts the offer to enter into a planning agreement respecting the provision of land and embellishments constituting LRP2 under Albury Infrastructure Contributions Plan 2014, included as a condition of development consent, and delegate authority to the General Manager, brackets, Chief Executive Officer, close brackets, to execute the document included at attachment 9, semicolon, and D, accepts the offer to enter into a water management works agreement and, colon, I, Roman numeral I, dot, resolves, comma, as the local water utility, comma, to enter into a water management works agreement, brackets, WMWA, close brackets, for the purposes of satisfying condition A 1.1 of the development consent, comma, in accordance with council's funding and delivery of water and wastewater infrastructure for out-of-sequence development policy, semicolon, and Roman numeral 2, full stop, authorises the general manager, brackets, chief executive officer, close brackets, to negotiate, finalise and execute a water management works agreement and all associated documentation required to give effect to this resolution, comma, consistent with the policy and the Water Management Act 2000.
Wonderful elocution, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you.
Councillor Perkowski.
Yes, happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, did you wish to open debate? Have you had enough time?
I just refer my fellow councillors to my previous comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know which ones, but that's fine. Councillor Callahan, you have a question?
I do have a couple of questions, not about trees, but before approving the 426 new homes, can council provide clear evidence that our existing water pressure, sewer capacity and peak summer demand will not be compromised for the current Thurgoona residents? I understand that we're entering into water management, but I suppose on the back of what's been happening in Thurgoona and what we're hearing from residents, can we just explain how this will be better managed? Thank you.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you very much for your question, councillor. Through you, Mayor Mack. Essentially, the 426 lot subdivision and development has been critically assessed through extensive hydraulic modelling. Councillors will be aware that early last year they approved water and wastewater master plans, which basically laid the roadmap of how we are going to support population growth within the city through infrastructure. During that initial work, this subdivision, fully developed, was incorporated into that modelling. Since then, effectively, we've been working with the developers to continue our assessment and our hydraulic modelling. Late last year, council resolved to endorse for public exhibition the funding and delivery of water and wastewater infrastructure for out-of-sequence development policy. That went to public exhibition. There was no objections received. Subsequently, that policy was endorsed by council in accordance with the resolution. So the Water Management Works Agreement effectively is an innovative way of funding and delivering infrastructure in advance of the development pathway that's been defined by the city and its strategic plans. It is at the direct consent, if you like, of council to enter into a Water Management Works Agreement, so long as it aligns with the strategic intent of what the council wants to achieve. Effectively, it enables the delivery of very expensive infrastructure that supports the growth of the city in advance of what currently is planned. So it's working in collaboration with the developers to deliver a strategic goal for the growth of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. I have a second question, if I may.
Yeah.
To another relevant staff member, potentially it's not a water question. It's just in regards to traffic management and traffic volumes. We know that Williams Road, Tabletop Road and Elizabeth Mitchell Drive, which is set to extend, have huge volumes and experience major congestion. How can we assure residents about the safety, the risks and our traffic flow management through Thurgoona?
So, Mr. Lawson, back row.
Thank you for the question, through you, Mayor Mack. So the Thurgoona Link Roads has obviously been a strategic project for council over a number of years that we've been working towards delivering, with the first stage awarded in December and commencing early this year. The majority of that project is currently included in the 4-year delivery program, and will be included in the upcoming program for consideration by council to include. And it's a key bit of infrastructure to ensure that we cater for current and future vehicle movements and growth within the precinct area.
Just a follow-up question on that, if I may.
Yes.
I suppose talks with Transport for New South Wales, obviously feeding routes out onto the freeway. Is there any updates there about people getting on and off ramps and trying to access the city through that way? I know that they really feel the pinch there in the mornings, afternoons, in peak traffic time.
Mr.
Yeah,
Lawson.
thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. Yeah, we're currently working with Transport for New South Wales around, in particular, the Thurgoona Drive interchange, which obviously is the interchange that services that precinct at this stage. They currently have funding to develop options and further detailed designs. So we're working with them around appropriate solutions for those congestion issues. Following that, they'll look to put a business case together around funding those preferred works.
Thank you. And just one final question, if I may indulge. I think it'll be to you, Mr. Lawson, as well. But how are we going to continue supporting bus routes, safe pedestrian cycling? We know that Albury is the second largest or dependent car city in Australia. And how can we support a bit more of that passive movement through Thurgoona?
Mr. Lawson.
Again, thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. So a few key documents help to guide that. Obviously, our MOVE, the Integrated Transport Strategy, and also the engineering guidelines work to ensure that we have a balance between usage for vehicles as well as public transport and active transport. So those documents guide that mix, and obviously Thurgoona Link Road is a key part of that infrastructure to deliver those other supporting infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Question, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I'm going to have to begin my question by slightly paraphrasing Dr. Zeus here. I ask questions for the trees because the trees have no tongues. There are 23 to the most relevant member of staff. There are 29 trees being removed from the R1 zone land. And my understanding is they don't need to be offset because the land is biocertified. Is that correct?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor Mac. From a biodiversity perspective, that's correct.
Yeah. And there's also 30 trees being lost from C3 environmental management land as a consequence of this development. Do those trees need to be offset?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor Mac. So I considered those through the biodiversity assessment report which came through. So there is some species credit considerations through those as a result of the impact, and that came up with the answers through the BEDA.
Thank you. So if the loss of those trees and consequent biodiversity generates credits, so essentially that means council has to just pay for the loss of them. Is that fair to say?
Mr. Christie.
I think the question for you, Mayor Mac, no, council's not responsible for those credits. The developer is responsible for those credits, and that's identified in their development consent.
And those credits can be spent anywhere in the state. Is that correct?
Again, thank you for the question and for you, Mayor Mac. So it's a state-run organisation, a program, then they're responsible for the collation and expenditure of that funding.
Sure. So it's possible that we're seeing biodiversity loss locally that's being offset by the developers paying for credits, which is then presumably supporting biodiversity potentially outside the LGA. Is that fair to say that that's potentially what will happen here then?
I think for the question and for you, Mayor Mac, as indicated before, it's done through the Biodiversity Conservation Trust, which isn't administered by council. That is a possibility, and the possibility also is it could be spent locally.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Follow-up question then relating to frogs now, not trees. This 48 hectares of Sloan's froglet habitat in this development, is that correct?
Thank you for the question. Yes, that would be correct.
Yeah.
That's the figures in the reports.
So my understanding is this is one of the healthiest populations of Sloan's froglet that we have left, and they are a nationally significant little amphibian. I know that the BEDA basically speaks to the fact that there are acceptable local impacts, but frankly, I think any impact on the Sloan's froglet in Thurgoona, given the fact that this is really the only viable population of them that is left in the country, it does mean that it is a nationally significant impact. Now, there's obviously some mitigation that is being proposed. For example, the chain of ponds. the BDAR also says, I believe, that there are no anticipated edge effects from this development because the land is already cleared, which to me seems utterly illogical given that we're proposing to make a subdivision here and build dwellings on it and roads and everything else that we know create edge effects. Given the location of those ponds and the fact that they are immediately adjacent to roads and dwellings, how are we confident, or what confidence does council have that the viability of these ponds can be maintained into the future, given that we can obviously anticipate there will be edge effects from the development?
Mr. Christian?
Yep, thank you for the question and for you, Mac, and I'll answer within my realm of expertise, which is it's not just through from a council. There's the local area management plan through New South Wales DQ. And New South Wales DQ have been involved in the consideration of designs of these ponds and the Sloanes-Frogler guidelines, and these are required to comply with those. So stages 1 and 2 of that require consultation with local DQ as part of their consideration, and there are further consent conditions that required and further more detailed designs and consents which require not only consideration of construction, which includes also outside of Sloanes-Frogler breeding season, and timing of the provision of the offsets before any impacts, if there are impacts to be offset, but also then around their ongoing maintenance and viability, and that's key to the Sloanes-Frogler guidelines, which this would need to comply with. So at this stage, information that's been provided has satisfied council to that effect, but there are still further stop measures during that to ensure that that will be as it goes through the subdivision work certificate stage and then also the ongoing maintenance of those basins.
Okay, thank you. I'll stop boring everyone with my questions about trees and frogs then.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. Question, Councillor Cameron.
Through Mayor Mac to the most appropriate member of staff, who I hope will be Mr. Lawson. It was mentioned that work is being done, of course, with the Department of Transport New South Wales to examine access points to, I thought if I heard correctly, access points to the highway at in the vicinity of Thurgoona Drive. Is that correct?
Mr. Lawson?
Thanks, goes through you, Mayor Mac. Yeah, they're looking to improve the access at the Thurgoona Drive interchange.
Look, I'd like to suggest and both ask if it's not being considered, an idea which I've been promoting for some time, which has fallen on deaf ears, sadly, as many of my genius ideas do, that approximately half the traffic, just as a rough guesstimation, travels into that area, which is then condensed into one lane from 2 lanes. I'm sure those of us who live in Thurgoona are intensely aware of it. It's a very frustrating experience. And then half that traffic goes up to the roundabout and then turns left onto the highway. Half is a guesstimation. I've long argued that at the point where the Thurgoona Drive condenses into one lane, that we should build a slip lane to the left to take traffic straight onto the highway and avoid going up, condensing and then going up and blocking everything up in the roundabout to get where it was going anyway, a lot of it. I had over the years put this forward several times to senior members of council, all of whom are not with us anymore, and it fell on deaf ears, unfortunately. Would it be possible to have that concept at least considered as part of these deliberations?
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. You may need to become a civil designer, Councillor Cameron, as that is one option that they will be looking at in the consideration of options.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Just one question. Looking at the states in the report that there's in the agreement that they will be contributing towards a future arterial road. The future arterial road is south of the main subdivision. Williams Road runs through the middle of the subdivision. What is the total sum of the road of the future arterial road will they be contributing to? Mr. Lawson?
Thank you for your question through you, Mac. So I presume you're talking about the stage 3 of the Thurgoona Link Road.
Correct.
So as council is collecting developer contributions for that component of the road, council will fund the 100% component of that. And also we're looking to potentially use grant funding to cover some of that cost as well.
But it says in the document, the relevant portion of the link road between and including the intersection with Williams Road and the intersection to the subject land is shown on the approved plan. Is that just the section at the end of Williams Road that they're going to construct, which will be a dead end?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mayor Mac. I presume that is just detailing the fact that the subdivision will have connectivity to the road network.
Yeah, eventually. Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Cameron, no further questions or debate. Did you wish to close debate?
No, I'm out of good ideas. Thank you, Mayor Mac.
Thank you for further lack of further elucidation. Okay, happy to put the motion as a division. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Bullivant, Bukowski, Cameron, Mack, Callahan, Bacon and King. Those against? Councillor Hudson. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We're up to CM 14.5, which is contract 25/02501, earthworks and plant equipment hire. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Cameron, very active.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I'd like to move the recommendation as a motion. That council pursuant to section 178(1)(a) of the Local Government General Regulation 2021 New South Wales accept the following tenders for the schedule of rates panel, contract number 25/02501, earthworks and plant equipment hire, estimated at 5 million, including GST, over a 3-year period, commencing 1 March 2026. The following companies: AP Delaney and Co., Bitu Mill Proprietary Limited, Border Earthworks Proprietary Limited, Coates Hire Operations Proprietary Limited Corporate, Hutchison Civil Proprietary Limited, ProQuip Rental and Sales Operations Proprietary Limited, Ready to Hire Proprietary Limited, Twin Cities Civil Hicks Trading Proprietary Limited, and Walsh Wodonga Proprietary Limited.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski.
Yes, happy to second the motion.
Councillor Cameron, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, Mayor Mac, very briefly. Councillors will be aware of an email that was sent around to councillors today. I think it was today, sadly. We have rules in this city and they're there for a very good reason around tenders. It is, without going into too much detail, it is not permitted for tenderers to contract or potential tenderers to contact councillors in the way that was done. And I'll leave it at that. But those rules are important. They are there to prevent malfeasance, and everybody has to play by the same rules. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears to be no further question or debate. Councillor Cameron, did you wish to close debate?
No, thank you.
Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. We're up to 14.6, contract 25/02438, Albury Entertainment Centre redevelopment. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that council resolves to accept the tender from Zorna Construction Proprietary Limited and awards the contract for 25/02438 Albury Entertainment Centre Convention Wing redevelopment for the tendered lump sum price of, just waiting for it to catch up.
Did you miss the first line, Councillor King?
Oh, I think I have.
We just start again, if you wouldn't mind
Yeah.
recommitting.
That council moves pursuant to section 178(1)(a) of the Local Government General Regulation 2021 New South Wales resolves to accept the tender from Zorna Construction Proprietary Limited and awards the contract for 25/02438 Albury Entertainment Centre Convention Wing redevelopment for the tendered lump sum price of $36,083,043.70, including GST.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Happy to second that, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor King, do you wish to open debate?
Thank you. Look, just to say that to the councillors who join me in supporting putting this development out to tender to test the market, I thank you. because I look at what's been put before us, and it's a redevelopment that's come in under initial estimates. In fact, $10 million in savings has been found. I'm beyond thrilled because our community users and businesses have told us loud and clear what this investment means to them. I hope councillors agree that by proceeding with the project without delay, inclusive of the $25 million of grant funding from the state and federal government, we are demonstrating a long-term commitment for future generations through community use, economic stimulus for our businesses, while investing in an asset that has the potential to generate income for council for the long term. And, noting that the submission came from a respected local construction company is something worth noting as well. And I think we've sort of seen examples of their work recently, the Lauren Jackson redevelopment. So I hope councillors will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor King. The speaker against, Councillor Cameron.
Does the seconder wish to speak or?
I think we've been through this before, Councillor Cameron. Happy to take you as the speaker against. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. You can be in charge. That's fine with me.
Thank you. Councillor Callahan would agree with you.
I was going to move a motion, but I was defeated by the cat-like reflexes of Councillor King, who left an old fellow like me for dead. And but I was going to move a motion that council reject the tender or not accept the tender and allocate no contract for the redevelopment. And I foreshadow that should this motion of Councillor King's fail, I will move such a motion. If you go down to the Mama building, you will see a plaque, and on it are 8 names, not 9, because I had warned that that building would prove to be on the scale that it was and is financially unsustainable for Albury City over time. And that is what has happened, and we're in the process of happening. It's a matter of public record. It's certainly a matter that councils will recall that after the last budget, it was only a matter of weeks before we were being faced with a request from Manex to provide $1 million out of budget to hope that wasn't confidential.
No, it wasn't.
To Mama. Now, the reason I mention this, of course, is that the same stories were told about Mama, that it would be okay, we could sustain it, and that there would be a river of gold from philanthropic donations, which we later found out couldn't be used for operational matters, only to build the collection, most of which now sits out in a shed in Thaguna, and that, everything would be sweet. Well, it wasn't sweet. There were variations of very substantial natures and contingencies were having to be applied that increased the cost well above. And as they always do in these projects, whether they be civil or building projects, they always do. Councillor King is delighted, she says, and I believe her, she's an honest person, that, the price has come in at such a low rate. Well, it hasn't. It hasn't in reality, because that's simply what's proposed. We have yet to see what may unfold in terms of variations and contingencies, and there is not the money in this city, I believe, to proceed on this scale at this time with this project. It's as simple as that, and it's a very simple and stark choice councillors have to make tonight. To go down the road that we went down with the Levy Sports Club redevelopment, which I opposed, to go down the road of Mama, which I opposed, and to once again commit to a project, buy a pig in a poke, where we don't actually know, or we can't be guaranteed what the outcome will be, and to risk that at a time when the city's finances are parlous. And we should be doing everything and anything that we can do to bring us back into operating surplus, right? Everything should be on the back burner, unfortunately, because of our situation financially that we found ourselves in, which I might finally add was very different to what we were told it would be in the last budget.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. I have a question and 3 speakers for. Councillor King, question?
Thank you. And just noting Councillor Cameron's comparison to Mama, I certainly wasn't on council at the time. I'm no engineer. I noted former councillor Thurley gave us some indications as to what may have been problematic in terms of those costs. could I, through the most relevant member of staff, have that comfort that this is quite a different situation potentially than what has happened in the past with that particular project? Am I missing something there?
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you for the question and through you, Mayor Mac. Certainly, in developing the project, there's been certain surveys and investigations undertaken to try and limit any unforeseen issues. Look, unfortunately, on any project, there is that issue around hidden costs, latent conditions, which may cause the requirement for some contingency funds. On this project, I think, and as Mr. Thurley mentioned before, the likelihood of that occurring on this project is very different to that of Mama, in that the majority of the building will be demolished, somewhere around that 90% mark. The real unknown is latent conditions in ground, potentially. However, there has been geotechnical information undertaken to, again, try and limit those contingency issues. But as by their very nature, and hence the name, they are called latent conditions. And should unforeseen issues occur, then they will need to be dealt with in an appropriate manner, which may include the requirement to value manage the project to ensure that funds are not overexpended.
Thank you. A follow-up. Would it be fair to say that council officers, the executive, all of the team are keeping an absolute focus on the costs? And you use the term value management or whatever, but can you, in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, to give that comfort for community that may be listening to what Councillor Cameron has to say, can you give that assurance that you've really got that focus, that total focus?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through you again, Mayor Mac. It's obviously a significant focus for us all at this time, understanding where we're at, what's possible and what's not, keeping in mind that obviously the operating fund is where a lot of our concerns are, and that should a project like this not have obtained such significant grant funding like the 25 million, I don't think it would be something that we would be considering as an option for council. We believe it is a good option. We believe that based on what funds would need to be expended to maintain the existing building, should this project not go ahead, would be somewhere in the vicinity of what we would need to spend if we awarded the contract. And in that case, awarding the contract, we would have a new building and not be maintaining an existing old asset.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Further questions? They've lit up. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. The city maintains, through you to the most appropriate member of staff, the city maintains an asbestos register as required by the Work Health and Safety Act, I imagine. Is that a yes?
Mr. Lawson.
Through you, Mayor Mac, thanks for the question. Yes, it's my understanding we do.
What does that inform us about the potential for asbestos and the requirement for asbestos removal during this project? Is that an issue or not?
I don't have that information in hand, but it would have been part of the original surveys undertaken to inform the design. As previously mentioned, a large majority of the building will be removed, so somewhere around that 90%. And I believe that there would be contingency in there for that.
So it would be reasonable to ask, wouldn't it, that you could be fairly certain that there would be no variation or other unexpected costs related to asbestos removal?
Mr. Lawson.
Again, thank you for the question. I would need to specifically take that on notice, as I haven't been in detail through the dollars, but based on what the requirements would be to scope up a project like this, they would need to understand what the existing materials in the building would be like.
Well, I'm very happy for you to take it on notice. The trouble is we're voting tonight.
Is that a statement or a question?
Unless
Statement?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Mac. We do have Simon who has been working in detail on the project manager, Simon Pedler, who can potentially answer that
Very
question.
happy to hear more. Yeah.
Simon?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through you, Mayor Mac, I can share that the asbestos register for that building has been included in the tender documents and forms part of the building contract and therefore part of the building contract lump sum.
Thank you.
Question from Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. Mr. Lawson mentioned that the biggest unknown were the sort of latent in-ground conditions, given that the building will be substantially demolished. My understanding, although I was not on council at the time, was one of the impacts during the Mama redevelopment was the discovery of some archaeological sites of significance, including the first telegraph station. I know I'm asking how long is a piece of string, but are we anticipating any unexpected archaeological finds if we're digging down under the AEC?
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mac. As detailed previously, investigations undertaken at this point haven't unveiled any of those concerns. However, they are investigations that are undertaken at specific locations, and once the ground is continued to be opened up, that may, expose some hidden issues. But I guess that is the requirement for latent conditions and the inclusion of that in the contract.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Glaffen speaking for.
Thank you. I too am delighted with the point at which we are at tonight. This has been an item discussed by at least two, in fact, three councils at least have been looking at this. A number of business cases have been drafted, submitted, and one of those business cases was the reason why the federal and state governments decided that they would include this project as part of the regional deal, the $25 million. They included it as part of the regional deal because it is a significant regional city, regional facility. They included it because the business case showed that the facility would make a profit. Now, we know from the discussions at our most recent council meeting discussing this, when we put it out to tender, that the average current cost at the moment to council is $500,000 per year to operate this facility. The business case shows that this facility would break even in the very least, and indeed it's anticipated that there would be a small profit. So going from a loss currently to a small profit, and I know that there are some very cautious councillors around the table. If we were to make a better than small profit, that would be fantastic. We do know that this is a facility that will be the only one of its kind between Sydney, Canberra and Melbourne. We know already that Albury is a significant conference and business destination. And it is because we have many facilities and services within our city. We know that, for example, Local Government New South Wales has visited Albury on a number of occasions. There are other significant state and national conferences that come to Albury. This is a facility that will continue to enable that to happen. There's been mention of the variations with Mama. Yes, there were some variations, one of which was indeed the Telegraph office, but there was also the wells, New South Wales and Victorian wells. They had two wells, one for the people of Victoria and one for the people of New South Wales. Interesting concept. It was a significantly older building. We do know that the scope has changed somewhat for around the design, that now that 90% of the existing building will be demolished. That will assist in alleviating some of those hidden costs that may arise or may have arisen had we not increased that factor of the demolition percentage, as was the case with Mama. because that was an old building that we retained everything that was retainable, including those old wells. We know that when we discussed this last time, we as a council were looking at $14.5 million that we would need to support this project with, in addition to the $25 million from the state and federal governments. We know that that has decreased significantly. $7.8 million. We also know that we would have to pay, and that this figure has not changed, $9.2 million, so 7.8 if we go with this project, against 9.2 million if we don't go with this project, to simply remediate the building as it is, because we've done very little in the last 10 years. Some things have been maintained because they've needed to, but we've spent the very bare minimum of funds ensuring that the facility would continue to operate on the basis that this project was in the wings. We have been discussing this project for many years. We do know that the facility will not cost us, we will not lose as much as we're losing now on an annual basis. We do know that it will increase the opportunity to our city and our region with those knock-on and add-on people and the costs and the money that they're spending in our region. This will be an advantage, not just to Albury City and our bottom line, it will be an advantage to our region. I think it's fantastic that the tender has come through proposing 22 months duration. It's less than we had anticipated. I think this ticks every box, including allowing us to utilise state and federal funding towards a facility that we have here in Albury. There are times when we often moan that the government never gives us anything. Well, they're giving us an enormous amount of money, percentage-wise, to this project. And this project will be an absolute win for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gleck and Councillor Baker speaking for.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. Before I do, I would just, seeing we've talked about a couple of other projects that have gone bung or not quite to budget. Last time I was involved in a big project, it was the Library Museum. It was the same tenderer. It was done with no fuss, within budget, within time, and it's been an absolute winner ever since it was put forward and built. It also had a magnificent lot of planning that went into it, exactly the same as this project. And I've got a few words written down. The tender from Zorna Construction Proprietary Limited represents outstanding value for the City of Albury and its residents. The gestation period for this aspirational and generational upgrade has been a long and arduous process over almost 8 years. To be at this point tonight is exciting, and it will be the best money Albury City will ever get to spend on critical infrastructure. We have a shovel-ready project. We've got 25 million of state and federal grant money to spend first, which accounts for approximately 3/4 of the total rebuild, and the clear choice between spending 9.2 million to roadworthy our existing tired old entertainment centre with no grant money and, quite frankly, not many prospects to hire it out to. People do not want to come to conferences at the old entertainment centre. 9.2 million might be unders to fix it up. Who knows what we'll find there? We're talking about what we might find in the new building. We could find all sorts of things there. Or the choice is we proceed with the obvious and wise choice to accept the Zorna tender for the new facility with double the capacity. It's purpose-built for today's contemporary requirements, and it's at 1.2 million less than fixing the old. And it also, into the bargain, and this may not ever happen, but it will also remove the risk of a Legionnaire's disease outbreak, which has been mentioned with the tower we've got at the existing entertainment centre. For me, it's, you know, the numbers aren't scary because we're getting 3/4 of it given to us. We can't use that grant money anywhere else. It is only for this project. And successive councils for the last 3 terms have voted every step of the way to do it. And the biggest kicker for me is the contract amount. I was concerned it might come in at 42 or 43. A lot of people didn't even want to go to tender because they were scared of the price. It's come in at an amazing figure, and there's really only one wise option. And I implore all councillors to get on board with this and make something exciting happen for the city.
We move on to Speaker for Councillor Bullivant.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. It may come as a surprise to the members of the gallery and my fellow councillors that I'm one of the councillors that has been prosecuting the cost of building infrastructure. But to our staff's credit and to our local tenderer, who has come in at a good price, as we can see at the moment, it's a good thing. 25 million from the state and federal government, a contribution from the Albury City, also 70% into the 27-28 budget period gives us enough time to find the surplus money that we may need. One of the concerns I do have is contingency, and I always talk about contingency, the what if, but what I do implore our staff is to manage this project to the nth degree. We look at it every day. We manage our numbers, we manage our labour costs, everything with the tender, and work with our tenderer to get best value, because that's what we're at, because it's a big project that we're going to take on. It's been bandied around the city for a long time, but we've just got to get it right, because we have a history of overruns, and I don't want to be one of those councillors who's got to front up to the people of Albury and say, look, we're over the odds. So I implore our council staff and executive to make sure that this project is to the nth degree, please. And I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bullivant. This is another speaker for, but with an absence of speakers against, I'd normally speak at the end, but I need to speak against this motion, and I have from the get-go. I just don't believe that in 1972, when this building was erected, Albury and Wodonga consisted of no conventions or conference space. When it was built, it was great, and it provided a service to the community that no other in the region could provide. Since 1972, the Commercial Club, the SSNO Club, the Cube, the current $18.5 million development, Liverpool Catholic Club at Thaguna, we've got the Albury Race Club wanting to put in a 300-seat venue. There's conference centres everywhere. I don't understand, and it's mentioned as being a critical development. A hospital is a critical development. This is not a critical development. This is not a must-have. This is, can we have it? Essentially, in our current financial environment, I'm not talking about ours particularly, but the current state of our country, we just had a 2-point increase in the Reserve Bank rate. Every borrowing we have, which I say at this point is quite excessive, will value add to increasing the deficit in our general fund, which everyone talks about capital works, but the interest goes towards our general fund. Now, in terms of the centre itself, there's a $9 million quote that's been thrown around the chamber quite actively, and there has been no consideration at all about repurposing the current building to other types of uses, which could be a community centre, could be a rehearsal space for the Performing Arts Centre, it could be an amateur theatre, it could be a lot of things, and you could just do minimal upgrades to achieve that objective. The issue of contingency, at the moment it's 32,802,767 million. Now, I just don't get that we don't have a contingency, and the assumption from the staff is that you've allowed a budget of nearly $40 million, there's your contingency. My view is there has to be a level of responsibility about how you manage that contingency. And you have to put a number on that. Because if I'm in the community and I'm the shareholder, which we all are in this room, I want some certainty that we're not going to go beyond a certain price. I mean, I think, again, the government, gave us 25 million back in 2019, 2020. A lot has happened in the last 6 years, and certainly the cost to do business has multiplied fourfold. Yet when we approach them to de-scope this particular project, you do it the way it was scoped originally, or you give the money back. I mean, that's blackmailing us into doing something that, yes, it's a great to have, but it's not a must have. I mean, I think, again, there's discussion at the chamber about profit. The projected profit won't occur for 10 years in this particular development as per the economic statement. And what we're going to have is losses for 10 years, and we currently have a loss on that venue. And as I said before, there are other venues offering that service as conference and convention space. The Commercial Club itself spent millions upgrading their current space. The conference figures, which were mentioned previously by the Speaker, Mr. Thurley, again, I asked for them and I was told they weren't available. Now, there are entities throughout this country that keep that information, yet we can't find them. Yet former Councillor Thurley says that, oh no, I Googled them. No mention of that in our report, that these are the numbers for Tamworth, or that Tamworth's got forward bookings for 3 years and Hunter Valley has forward bookings for 5 years, and Wollongong's doing great because they got this. It's a little bit like the comment before about, what was it, Councillor Bullen, Apple and eggs. I mean, there's no comparison in those three centres. The Hunter Valley, comparing that with, I love Albury-Wodonga, Hunter Valley, Albury-Wodonga. Wollongong, it's part of Sydney. And as for Tamworth, well, that would be probably a close comparison, but I've got no figures to compare it with. And this whole argument is predicated on figures that don't exist. Now, there's a lack of accountability in that. And as far as I'm concerned, making this sort of decision is pivotal in actually progressing it. Now, I don't disagree with councillors that the current centre in the perfect world would be a great thing to have, but it's not something we need. And to be honest, I think we're being a little bit presumptuous that we should spend this money and believe $32,802,767 is the figure it's going to land at. Because like Councillor Cameron, I didn't support Mama. I love the arts, but I didn't support Mama. What has happened at Mama has not equated to a profit or to a benefit to 57,000 people in this community. I would contend this will be a similar project, and I do not support this project on the basis of the cost associated with the movement of money over a period of 6 years and the confidence of moving forward without a contingency and relying upon, oh, there's a budget for 40 million roughly, and we can spend up to 40 million if we like. Because I think, again, that is part of that performance managing of our money and being accountable to our community. So that's my position. Councillor Callaghan, you wish to speak for?
I would like to propose an amendment to the current motion to enhance it, I believe.
Yeah.
Be willing to. Thank you. It would be to add to it, which is B and C. So just adding to the existing motion. So B being that ensure that the project is delivered strictly within the council's endorsed tender amount of $36,083,043.70, including GST, with no further budget increase to be supported. And C, delegate authority to the interim chief executive officer to manage and negotiate any required scope adjustments or cost variations to ensure expenditure remains within the endorsed tender amount, and to formally communicate council's position regarding budget constraints. Thank you.
Councillor Hudson.
Happy to second Councillor Callaghan's amendment.
Thank you.
mate.
Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to speak to that?
Thank you. Did want to make my amendment earlier, but it was good to be able to hear, I think, both sides of this story, and I think where we've been sitting at as a councillor group. I too was shocked, I suppose, when the tender had come back to us, expecting it to come in much higher. But given our current financial situation, I think we need to take that into account, that we need to be quite frugal with our money. I'd like to support the recommendation to award the Albury Entertainment Centre Convention Wing redevelopment to Zorna Construction. $36 million, however, does make me feel slightly unwell given our current financial situation. However, council can exclude GST, and therefore the tendered lump sum of $32.8 million excluding GST sits within the endorsed project budget, and importantly sees that $25 million is secured in the grant funding as well. Given the $32.8 million, it's not far off what we originally committed to, which was $31.5 million. I know things have changed substantially. However, I think given the time blowouts and cost escalations with building, I think it sits in a fair and reasonable space. However, I think I want to be really clear, and I think the sentiment sits here with our councillors as well. We have no capacity to exceed the allocated buffer, none. The endorsed budget is the ceiling, and I have no appetite and there's no financial headroom for this project to drift beyond that allocation. If variations arise that place the project at risk of exceeding the approved budget, the response must be immediate, must be looking at rescoping and value management. Projects that exceed in the order of $10 million are not acceptable, and that's what had happened with this project. I believe at one period it scoped well beyond the $40 million. Projects must be brought back into scope, not pushed beyond the budget envelope. I think it was just mentioned it's a nice to have. I think it would be a shame to lose the $25 million, and I think this amendment here this evening really supports the project moving forward, but really provides a tight scope for it. While the report outlines extensive value management savings and confirms the tender is below the independent QS estimate, it is also fair to say that this project has not been managed as tightly as it should have been to date. The scale of earlier cost movement and the need for repeated refinement raises legitimate concerns about project discipline. From this point forward, governance and cost control must be rigorous. The council has a responsibility to the ratepayers. The lump sum contract is tightly administered, variations are minimised and scrutinised, and scope creep not to be tolerated. And any emerging risks are to be reported to council promptly, I think, which highlighted Councillor Bullivant's sentiments earlier before. I know Councillor Thurley mentioned, that $6 million buffer, but that's really looking at what the endorsed budget was at $39.5 million. In the contract, it has $200,000 there for room for movement. When you're looking at private enterprise, often it's in the order of 1% error or judgment. We've got too much scope in local government, and we really need to be reining our figures in. I think it's really possible. I look at what happened at Lauren Jackson. Zorna came in earlier than expected and under budget, and I'd really like to see this possible with the Albury Entertainment Centre, but I think we need to be really clear about what our budget is and what our expectations are and how far we can go. So I'm hoping my fellow councillors can support moving forward with the project, but also being really strict and on point with our budgeting and our management of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. I have two questions before speaking against. Councillor Glacken, question.
Yes, through you to the most relevant member of staff. Councillor Mack made reference to conference spaces in the area, Commercial Club SSNA, Cube, Thurgoona Golf Club, and a couple of others. Can I confirm from the staff, please, what the comparative size and capability of each of those, so Commercial Club SSNA, Cube, and the Thurgoona Golf Club, are in comparison with the Albury Entertainment Centre and its current plus also future?
Mr. Glass.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Glacken, and through you, Mayor Mack. Generalisation in banquet style seating, so round table, 10 people at a table, they're on the order of 300 or less. We're looking in the order of 800. Thanks. In terms of size for that. Thank you.
And a follow-up question, if I may. Thank you. Can the staff confirm the demand for greater than 500? So none of these facilities would be able to accommodate that, for greater than 500 for banquet style events, including conferences and or other.
Mr. Glass.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As you'd appreciate, a couple of the venues that are large venues that are mentioned here are private
run facilities, which means that they run at a profit. We talk to them. They've confirmed that they've got strong forward bookings and continue for the next 2 or 3 years to have strong forward bookings. Getting the information is challenging, and that's because they are private businesses that do run at profit. They don't like to disclose a lot of their financial information. And Councillor Mack is correct. I understand that he's made some inquiries himself around finding this information. It is challenging to find, but the most recent report we have on market intelligence for the market and conference and event industry is that it's growing at in the order of 3% per year.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Speaking against, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Mack. I don't mind the thrust of this at all, but for me to support this amendment, in B, I would like something added to, with no further budget increase, unless authorised by a decision of council. I'd like it to come back to council if there's any chance of an overrun, but just to put a carte blanche, no further budget increase doesn't do it for me. But if it can come back to council, if there's any budget overrun, I'd be happy with that.
Councillor Callaghan.
I'm happy to support that, Councillor Baker.
Councillor Hudson.
Happy to support that.
Thank you. Councillor Baker, did you wish to speak any further? Okay. Question from Councillor King, then a speaker 4.
Just after some advice on the unintended consequences potentially of this motion, something that we may not have thought about. Will it impact the tenderer? Will it, will it impact our grant funding? Whether the government wants more surety about progressing, just things that we mightn't have thought about if we were endorsing this.
Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, thank you for the question through you, Mayor Mack. Look, one unintended consequence may be around project management of the contract and potential slowing of decisions, which could cause in itself delays for the contractor, which then under the contract may be up for delay costs and time potentially. The other is around just under item B, where the item says ensure that the project is delivered. The project cost is different to the contract cost. So the contract cost is the 36,083,043.7, which is the cost to procure the services of Zorna Construction. The project cost is different to that because there's other direct costs to council around project management, certain costs for the DA, such as developer contributions, the long service levy, and then any other conditions that might have arisen from consent conditions provided by the regional panel. So I guess in saying that, it would be more prudent to have contract rather than project.
Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to speak to that?
I'm happy to make that adjustment. That's all right.
Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, I thank Mr. Lawson for his clarification. I think that's a reasonable.
Thank you. Contract will be substitute for project. Councillor Bullman, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Mack, to the relevant member of staff. Just one of the statements that Mr. Lawson just made about hold-ups on progress, and we've suddenly had an increase. Do we have the opportunity to say call an extraordinary meeting just to process that through the council? If we suddenly had a issue that we needed to get sorted, we could have. So what I'm saying is that it might not be a hold up if we highlight something and we have the opportunity to call an extraordinary meeting with the councils to make a decision on the process. Do we have that facility?
Well, I do believe we do, and it's the immediacy of that meeting and the availability of councillors given the new code. So it can't be online, but I'm confident we'd have a quorum. Mr. Lawson, in terms of that comment, I mean, what is it you're exactly referencing that will be delayed? And we're talking about a $3 million differential. So what you're saying is that whilst there's no contingency, that another 3 million is going to slow the project down.
Sorry, thank you for the question through you, Mark. It may slow where there might be a latent condition, say, for example, in ground conditions, where we'll need to make a decision quickly to ensure that the contractor can continue undertaking their work. That would, if we had to wait a month to have a decision of council whether that contingency work can be undertaken, that may slow the contract down. I presume the council might mean that if progressive variations occur that are continuing to add, that we might look at value management and then come back to council. Is that the intent of the recommendation?
Yeah, I would think that's more practical intent of the recommendation, more than just viewing every variation and taking that on face value. I think the project needs to be managed in accordance with the progressive nature of the build. And if the money that's contributed, if it got to a point where they needed more money or variation, then you would come back to council. But more specifically, to Councillor Bulvin's point, an extraordinary meeting can be conducted with immediacy to address any urgent issues if that's required.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. So that would mean that the contract manager would be able to manage variations as required under the contract and look to value manage that where appropriate, or if not, then come back to council for a decision.
Yeah. And I recall just with some note that Lavington Sports Ground, when the soil that was found, which was unsuitable and causing problems, it came back to council for consideration with a report and variation. But that was a major change, but it was a major change in budget as well. But an extraordinary discussion meeting, that would be a similar situation. Okay, questions, Councillor King?
Just a hypothetical. So looking at that motion, it comes back. We then have a decision of council. It's possible the council of the day will go, no more money, we're not doing any more. It may only be, who's to say, it could be an extra 500,000, $1 million. At what point, if the council then comes back and refuses as a collective any more money on that project, how do we go forward then? And what sort of, I'm just trying to think logically through it, that's all.
Mr. Lawson?
Thank you for your question through you, Mayor Mac. So there's certain latent conditions which would obviously be a non-negotiable. Things like if there was ground issues, then obviously we can't move ahead without secure foundations and bring the building up. So that those would be things that would be a given. Within the tender documents, we asked the submitter to provide elements, values for elements that we may be able to value manage at a later date should issues arise. So there would be scope to vary that, and I think I'd have to refer to Simon, but I think the value of those was in the order of, I'm not sure off the top of our heads, but it was a significant value that we may be able to value manage out, and it was things such as dividing walls and those type of things that we may be able to remove to value manage other required variations.
Sure.
Yep. Question, Councillor Glacken?
Thank you. The scope from the builder for the term, through you to the rest of the members of staff, is 22 months. My understanding is, no offence intended to Mr. McGrath, that our interim chief executive officer is here for a foreseeable future, but there's a finite time. So the wording might be delegate authority to the chief executive officer. We either have a real chief executive officer or we have a chief executive officer acting, which is an interim. So I think maybe just the wording, take out the interim.
Happy to accept
if that's all right.
Happy to do that. Councillor Callaghan,
Yes, happy to accept Councillor Glacken's.
Councillor Hudson,
Yes.
Mr McGrath, are you happy with that?
Absolutely, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Councillor Cameron has a speaker for. Councillor Bulliman, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, Mayor Mac, more of a statement just to,
No statements, questions.
let me
That's
say
okay.
this, I would think that, that our staff, and they're alluding to Councillor King's last summation, our staff with the due diligence that they're going to perform in this job won't be coming to us with a big number to get approval for, I hope.
That was a
At that
question.
stage.
Is that, are you going to ask that question?
Oh, yeah, I have now.
He did raise his voice at the end, so it might have been a question. Speaking for Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Will support and urge others to support this amendment, particularly as it has evolved slightly. But I just want to inject a bit of reality here, respectfully. This is a bit like Mr. Miyagi's advice to Daniel in The Karate Kid. You either do or don't do, right? Thinking that you can set limits that will be hard and fast brings with it, which was touched on by a question from Councillor King, brings with it an obvious problem. It's common in civil construction, and it's also been known to happen in building quite a bit, that if a contractor finds themselves in a position where they think they're being disadvantaged and unfairly treated, or having constraints put on them in terms of a budget that is not achievable because of unforeseen circumstances, they will very often simply pack up and stop work and yes, and seek damages, as I'm reliably informed. So in the real world, that's what happens. So it is all very nice for us to tell ourselves that there'll be a constraint pursuant to this motion, and I stress I'm going to vote for it, but I wouldn't get too excited about the real world effect, because the minute there is significant variation or contingency requirements, and this is no reflection on the particular tender, it would be true of any building or construction company, they will, by necessity, in their view, do the right thing by their business and cease work and come back to us in a litigious, possibly litigious manner and seek damages. So what I would say to my fellow councillors is don't get your hopes up too much about the ability of council by all methods to control this. I say to you again that it's a case of do it and wear the result, or don't do it and wear the result. That's the stark choice, as I said at the outset, between us. And I fear that I will be once again, as I am with Mama, sitting here at the end of this process going, I told you so.
Thank you for those
Words of
eloquent
wisdom.
words.
Thank you.
Eloquent
Rachel.
words. Councillor Hudson, speaker for, but I have a speaker against. Councillor King.
Thank you. And I do really want to acknowledge Councillor Callaghan and also Councillor Hudson for this amendment. And I absolutely understand the intent, and I think we've come a long way from, a lot of councillors just point blank going, no, we're not even going to enter the realm of going to tender. So we certainly have progressed a long way, but do or don't do, I do think that this may have risks. And I absolutely understand Councillor Cameron's wisdom with what he has just had to say. And I'm also mindful of the rate of inflation, and any delays, even potential delays, again, could have complications. So even small turnarounds, a report to council, that takes time, back to us for an emergency meeting or whatever. I'm just nervous that even with this great intent, it would potentially have those unintended consequences. So I'm not going to support this motion, but I do appreciate the efforts for consensus. I certainly want to put that out there.
Thank you, Councillor King. Speaker for, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Mayor
For the
Mac.
amendment.
Yes, I do speak for the amendment, and I thank all the councillors for their collaborative efforts in making this the best amendment that I think it can be, the one that we have before us. Like Councillor King, I supported the motion to go out for tender because ultimately I didn't think that I could make a decision in good conscience without having more information. at the time, back in the December meeting. There were a lot of assumptions around what the tender would come back at, and that to me was not a basis with which to make a decision. We needed to know what the number was going to be. We've got the tender back now. It is, I think, substantially more favourable than what many of us expected, which is very pleasing. Ultimately, this decision is really a bit of a gamble. We know what the prize is. We know that it's a really high quality bit of infrastructure that will benefit our community. I mean, having the capacity increase that this project will deliver will, I think, deliver real benefits to our community. Will it turn a profit? I hope so. But I think that there are many things that, local government, any level of government do that provide benefit to the community that we serve without a profit involved. Public transport is a good example of that. Healthcare is another example of that. We don't just do things on the basis that they're going to turn a profit, because we're not a corporation in that sense. We also know that if we don't make this decision, that there are obvious downsides. We will lose that $25 million in grant funding, and I do want to return to that briefly as well. We know that regardless of how much it eventually costs, we will have to spend more money to make really necessary safety upgrades at a minimum to the existing facility if we don't proceed with a full redevelopment. So on that basis, I think the only real decision is to proceed because the risks, if we don't, are too great. I think we do need to reflect, I suppose, on an unfairness in all of this, which is that the state and federal governments expect local government to deliver really high quality infrastructure to its communities. And our community expects that of us as well. But ultimately, this process has taken so long, and that delay has contributed so much to the increase in the cost of this project. But there has been no commensurate increase in the value of the grant funding. And in essence, I think we can look at that as really cost shifting from state and federal governments towards local government, because they have said, you have to deliver this project, and if you don't, you won't get the money. Well, there are many things outside council's control which have led to these delays, and there are many causes of cost escalation, not least of all the pandemic, which have led to the increases in the budget. And we're not seeing the support from the state government or from the federal government commensurate with that. So, I think that is ultimately something that's not within our control, but it should be acknowledged. So, as I said, I think this is ultimately a bit of a gamble. I think that I have faith that the staff have put so much time and effort into this through every aspect of it, whether that be the de-scoping that's gone, that they've undertaken. But ultimately, I think that we've probably got a project here which we've got so much scrutiny on and so much thought put into that I am at this stage confident that we aren't going to see any huge cost blowouts, because those principally happen when unexpected things happen. And I think that the staff have put enough time and planning into this that it will have avoided the vast majority of those potential risks. So I'm very happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. Speaking against, Councillor Clark, against the amendment.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking against the amendment, and I supported the original motion. A couple of points with reference to the amendment is it doesn't, and Councillor King touched on this, it doesn't include inflation. So we know that there is inflation. We know that building costs have increased. This build is going over a 2-year period. So it's a little short-sighted of councillors if we were to approve the $36,083,043.70 without any potential for deviation or increases. And I do acknowledge the acceptance of the mover and the seconder to have the addition of no further budget increases unless authorised by a decision of council. The implications of the unintended consequences of delays. Yes, there any week or 2 weeks for some of the contractors working on this site will be enormous, or could be potentially enormous, the cost that would then be passed on to us. We need to be mindful of that when we're agreeing to this. And as councillors, we need to be considering that some of the increases may well be because we delay our decision because we need to authorise a variation. We need to be accepting that that is our responsibility if we apply this, which is one of the reasons why I cannot support this amendment. I cannot support this amendment on the basis also that we know that it has actually come in significantly less, not just a little bit less, but significantly less than the original documentation that we sent out for tender. We also know that it is a saving to us as a council if we proceed with this than it is to relative saving, Councillor Cameron, a relative saving if we proceed with this development than it is for us to do the mitigating works, which is more expensive, and we end up with the old facility tarted up. It is important that we undertake this deep renovation. It's a significant project in our city, will significantly enhance the facilities. And I think we are really selling ourselves and our community short for a number of reasons, including inflation, unintended consequences, if we are so restrictive and petty with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Any more speakers for or against the amendment? I'll just speak quickly in relation to speaking for the amendment. Whilst I spoke against the original motion, this amendment gives me some comfort and gives me some notion that we've given an undertaking in the report that this whole process has been value managed and we're on top of it and we've got this under control, yet we still want the comfort of another $3 million to make it happen. Now, I think this particular amendment gives us equally gives us comfort, but also sends a message that we expect this whole project to come in on budget and certainly be a great example of good decision making. As Albus Dumbledore said, we can never have enough socks. Unfortunately, some of the councillors in this chamber want too many socks. I think we need to reduce how many socks we can wear, because we only wear a pair at a time, to understand the importance of this particular project and the spending on this project, because the money is not finite. And to Councillor Hudson's point, the government, as I said before, both governments have not allowed us any extension of funds to account for inflationary increases. So I'd support the amendment on the basis of common sense and on the basis of good due diligence and effective decision making. So, Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to close debate on your amendment?
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I do. I'd like to thank my fellow councillors in the ability to get to where we are tonight with this amendment. Let's remember that the unintended consequences is a budget blowout. And as stated, an extraordinary meeting can be held as not to slow the project down. The intention is to not to delay building construction. It's to keep the project on track financially. I'd like to think that Zorna have considered inflation over the time period as part of their due diligence. And I also believe that this motion before us this evening will certainly tart up the venue. If money blows out, we can stage the project as indicated by the tenderer. And as stated this evening, this has already been investigated, which is great foresight and great thinking by the team. The secured grant funding and the positive cash flow position until 70% completion and the strategic alignment towards Albury 2050 all supports proceeding with this project. But the support today comes with a very clear expectation. This project must be delivered with the approved budget allocation of the 36 million we've discussed. And I hope moving forward that our budget reflects this. So happy to put it to a vote and hoping my fellow councillors are happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Happy to put the amendment. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Councillor Bullivant, Councillor Bukowski, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Mack, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Hudson and Councillor King. Those against? Councillor Gluckin. So the amendment is carried and becomes the motion. Councillor Callaghan, as it has become the motion, do you have any further words to add?
No, thank you.
Happy to put that as the motion. There appears to be no further debate or questions. All those in favour? Councillor Baker, Councillor Bullivant, Councillor Bacchus, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Mack, Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Gluckin and Councillor King. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, staff, for your wonderful patience. Great idea. I think we need a quick break because we're heading into a quick, long night. Really? Really?
Yeah.
What? Thank you, councillors. Thank you, ball boys. Thank you, ball girls. Ready to start. No one listening. I got them going.
Oh my God, did you use that thing?
Oh, no one's gonna ignore me. Thank you, councillors. We'll resume the meeting and we're up to 14.7, which is 25/01090 Albury Waste Management Centre Garden and Timber Waste Processing. Councillor Cameron.
I move that council pursuant to section 1781A of the Local Government General Regulation 2021 New South Wales resolves to accept the tender from Tri Green Waste Recycling Proprietary Limited award contract number 25/01090 Albury Waste Management Centre Garden and Timber Waste Processing for the estimated value based on the tendered schedule rates of $2,914,395 for a term of 2 years plus 3 by 1 optional use.
Going once, going twice. Councillor Billivan.
Happy to second that, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, did you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, wish to speak for that?
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I speak very briefly for, and I'm very happy for Councillor Cameron. We're going to get great value for processing all of the trees that we're going to cut down. So,
Thank you. There's been no question or debate. I'm happy to put the motion. All those in favour? You wish to speak? Okay, you want to respond to that?
When that happens. Thank you, Mayor.
Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. 14.8, the draft 8 Mile Creek flood study review. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hudson.
thank you, Mayor Mac. I move that council receives and notes the contents of this report, endorses the draft 8 Mile Creek flood study review for public exhibition for a minimum period of 28 days. And if no submissions seeking amendments are received during the public exhibition period, adopts the draft 8 Mile Creek flood study review.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Free to support.
Councillor Hudson, do you wish to speak to that?
Only briefly. I mean, we're putting this out for public exhibition. I'm be interested to see what the community has to say about it. Obviously, the impacts of overland flooding, flash flooding, they are serious in our community. We see it not just in Thaguna, which is obviously where this area relates to, but all around the city. And it is really important that we have this information so that we can plan appropriately for our infrastructure, but also so that residents and future residents of the areas are fully appraised of the risks as well. Thank you.
Thank you. No further question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We have the December quarter budget review, 14.9. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Cameron.
I move the recommendation as a motion that council adopts the revised budget estimates for the 2025/26 financial year.
Councillor Bukowski.
Yes, second. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, did
No,
you wish
thank you,
to
Mayor
speak
Mac.
to that? Okay. The lectern green light. Someone at the lectern. Oh, there's ghosts in this room. Okay, there appears to be no further question or debate. I'm happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone? Anyone against? No, the motion is carried. Thank you for the comments, Councillor. Okay, 14.10, the Olga 2026 National General Assembly submissions of motions and attendance. Councillor Cameron.
I'd like to move an alternate, no, I won't. I'd like to move that, thought about it. I'd like to move that Council A approve the attendance of the Mayor and CEO at the 2026 Albury Local Government Association National General Assembly to be held in Canberra from the 23rd to the 25th of June 2026, and B, notes that no motions were received from councillors for submissions to the 2026 NGA business paper.
Thank you. Councillor Billerman.
Happy to second it, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to that, Councillor Cameron?
I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes.
Not that I particularly ever want to go again, but is there provision for councillors to attend as observers or, in addition, if they request it?
It's like any other conference, Councillor Cameron, they can request it and
that would be
simplified.
that would be subject
to approval.
From yourself and the CEO, or the
Correct.
CEO, or
Yeah.
yourself, or?
Both of us, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Okay, there appears to be no further question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? That motion is carried. We have the draft Albury City Information Guide 2026. Thank you, councillors. Left 14.11. Councillor Billerman.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. I move the recommendation that Council A adopt the revised Albury City Information Guide 2026 and B, rescind the previous Albury City Information Guide 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Billerman, did you wish to speak to that at all?
No, not really, Mayor Mac. It's just it is a clerical motion that we're just ticking off, I would think. So no, that's about all.
Okay. No further question or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. We have 14.12, 2025-26 fees and charges schedule amendment, public exhibition submissions. Thank you, Councillor Bracken.
Through you to move the recommendation as a motion that council accepts the presented submissions and responses and endorses the proposed solar panel recycling gate fee of $15 per panel.
Thank you. Councillor Bukowski.
Yes, I will second.
Thank you. Councillor Glacken, did you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. I think this is very good value for money for anyone needing to have a solar panel recycled on the basis that the solar panels are either making them money or reducing the cost of their electricity in the first place. Ultimately, they need to be reprocessed once they age. And recycling of these panels is not free. It's something that people need to undertake if they've been benefiting from having solar panels. Not everyone does. Therefore, it's important that the people who have the panels pay that fee. So $15 a panel, good value for money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Further no questions or debate. Happy to put the motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Councillors, CM15 officer reports for noting. Just wondering if there's any appetite in the chamber to move the entirety of those reports in Globo. Happy to take questions with staff if you have them. Happy to do that. Councillor Cameron.
I'd like to move in Globo CM 15.1 through to CM 15.6.
Yep. Seconded. Thanks, Councillor Billerman.
Happy to second that, Mayor Mac.
Thank you. Okay, happy to put that motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Okay, that brings us to urgent business, I believe. Yes, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you.
You got your hand up.
Yeah, it's a serious matter. Thank you, Mayor Mac. As I think I was talking to you at the time when I was at the waste management facility on Sunday morning.
I don't think you should go there.
Well, I find it necessary to go there, as do many of our residents and ratepayers.
Yep.
Mayor Mac, I know there's this ideal that's put around by some political movements and, Robert Holmes a Court's son or wherever he is, that people can recycle everything, including their fingernails and toe cuttings, who knows, tea bags perhaps. But the reality is, for most of us, we need to go to the tip. And so I was there, and once again, I was shocked to see on a Sunday morning the congestion in the shed and the fact that the purpose-built slip lane for those of us who are taking general waste to the tip and not messing about with these exotic ideas are blocked, physically blocked from going left through there on some cockamamie idea that by forcing us to endanger our own and other people's safety by going through a congested area where people are popping out in forklifts, volunteers are stumbling around, members, by what I presume are members of staff, are moving this way and that way, and without any evidence whatsoever of a traffic control plan. And I'm serious now, somebody's going to get hurt there. Why the hell are we not implementing the facility in the way it was designed and built and allowing those of us who are going about our normal traditional business of taking rubbish to the tip and putting it in the rubbish area and don't want to stop in the recycling area?
Point of order.
It's really urgent. Someone's going to get hurt.
Is this urgent or emergent?
I think it is urgent. There's concern by the councillor
Yes,
that someone
concern.
is going
And
to
I
get
ask for
hurt.
two things. One, in due course, perhaps not tonight, a explanation of why we have to put a traffic barrier in a purpose-made slip lane. And two, evidence that we have a traffic control plan pursuant to the Work Health and Safety Act 2011, New South Wales, in operation, because I saw no evidence of that on that Sunday morning.
Thank you, councillor. Mr Millett, have you got anything you can discuss on the spot and some response to councillor Cameron's concerns?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor Mack. Certainly, we've got safe operating procedures in place that ensure the safety of our staff and the public. I can certainly come back with some information regarding that to provide that reassurance for councillors. In relation to the use of the slip lane, our staff are there to assist the public. As you were aware, the space in the landfill is premium. We want to extend the life of the landfill as much as we can. So in consultation and with support of our community, we would like to divert as much material as possible. We're forever trying to find markets for recycled material so that we can continue to extend the life of the landfill, which will prevent us having to go through a process of either exporting our waste to other council areas or looking for another alternative site.
Further question, councillor Cameron? Yeah.
Can you please explain to me and to the other councillors how forcing people to go through a high traffic area, which doubtless requires a traffic control plan, not just an SOP, how that reduces landfill in some magical way when people have already loaded their cars with general waste in bags? They're not going to get it out, open up the bags, sort through the putrefying pizza boxes and empty bottles of Melbourne Bitter and organise it all on the ground in the shed full of people going this way and that way, interspersed with forklifts. This is a nonsense, frankly, respectfully. The idea that inconveniencing people.
Again, is this urgent or emergent, or could we have a presentation at some stage in the future, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Cameron, point of order.
To the point of order, it is most certainly urgent. It involves public safety. What could be more urgent? And the lack, what I perceive to be the lack of a traffic control plan.
But councillor Cameron, are you comfortable with receiving a presentation on this particular issue?
Yes, but I have
workshop?
I have a significant problem with the answer just given, that somehow this magically reduces landfill.
Well, I'm happy to take that on notice myself, but I think a presentation to an appropriate workshop would be far more suitable.
Well, workshops are now illegal.
No, a committee, infrastructure committee could easily hold a presentation to
Well,
explain.
that's not a workshop, is it, Mr Mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you. That's enough.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Keller Hudson, did you have a?
I did, but in the, no, it's fine.
Okay. Councillor King, did you have an item for urgent business?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Mack. I was.
Sorry about turning a button off all the time.
That's right.
Callahan was chairing and telling me that It was an accidental pressing. You kept pressing and I kept turning it
No,
on. Okay.
look, I'm not sure under the terms of urgent business, but I just thought councillors, given that it is our first council meeting of the year following the departure of our long-serving CEO, Frank Zachnich, I wanted to publicly commend him for his years of service and considerable contribution to our city and wish him well for the future. And I know, Mayor Mack, you've spoken publicly, but I just sort of thought in the forum of the chamber, I just thought I'd like it on the record publicly that, that I'm sure as a group of councillors, we acknowledge his contribution and wish him well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, no further urgent business. We need to refer to the item that we 7.2, which was moved to the rear of the agenda. I'm happy at the moment it's not considered confidential. It's about confirming the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the, I can't see the date again, the 16th, 28th of January 2026. I mean, that is the item that we need to put forward as a confirmation of the minutes. Councillor Glacken?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm very happy to move the recommendation that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, the 28th of January 2026 at 6 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you.
Should I get a seconder?
Thank you. Councillor Bullivan?
Happy to second, Mayor Mack.
Thank you. Just questions now, Councillor Glacken. Did you wish to speak to that at all? Okay. Yes, Councillor Cameron.
Is it necessary for us to convene into confidential to do that, though?
I said that we don't need to at this point. I'll determine whether we do. I
Well,
understand you're looking at the screen,
If you say so.
but the screen does mention the extraordinary meeting right now. If we move into some levels of confidentiality, I'll consider that on its merit. Thank you. Councillor Baker, question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Please,
Yeah,
councillor.
question relating to the minutes. And I don't need to go into confidential. The minutes first published and then removed a day or so later related to an amendment to the mayoral minute, which was decided in a confidential or closed meeting. I believe council then received verbal advice that only the resolution be recorded, which is very much at odds with other advice within the code that reads, all voting at council meetings, including meetings that are closed to the public, must be recorded in the minutes of the meeting with the names of councillors who voted for or against each motion or amendment, including the use of casting vote, being recorded. We adopted this code on the 8th of December last year. So my question is, as there is obvious ambiguity within the code and the one we adopted, will we receive written advice to support the verbal advice? Could I please request written advice to that point? Because if it says one thing somewhere, something else somewhere else, I know the intent of the new code is for transparency, and that's why they've talked about anything that council votes on, they want recorded. I'd just like a written opinion rather than verbal advice, if that's possible, please.
No problem. Did you wish to speak, Mr. McGrath?
Mr. Mayor, we can get some advice. But I think if you look at 11.11, it talks about the recording of the proceedings, and that's open and closed, so council has a record. There is nothing that suggests that the minutes of the closed proceedings are to be made public, because they actually contain additional discussion and information. The obligation to make public is in clauses 14.17 to 14.20, which says that if council passes a resolution during a meeting or a part of a meeting that is closed to the public, the chairperson must make the resolution public as soon as practicable after the meeting or the relevant part of the meeting has ended, and the resolution must be recorded in the publicly available minutes of the meetings. Only the resolution, not the entire transaction of business in closed session. Now, that's been my experience, and that's what I would advise, but I'm happy to get some further legal advice if that's of council's desire. Yeah.
Seems to have changed since what we used to do.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, once again, I can't comment on what you used to do, but it's often the case that you'll have situations in councils where there is a slightly different approach that's been by convention and history. I can't comment on that. I can simply comment on how I've interpreted the code in its entirety over many, many years. The clauses around the recording of minutes and the making the resolutions public haven't substantially changed.
Let's get a, yeah, thank you. Yeah, good.
Councillor William, do you have a question?
Just more of a question, my understanding is confidential and open is open. So there's a bit of grey area there. So I understand the resolution gets printed, but I am uncomfortable with the minutes being printed in the public arena because it is a confidential meeting and it has ramifications for all of the councillors with the meeting. I have no issue with the transparency of it, but I just think that we need to be very mindful that minutes matters that are of a personal nature or an employment nature don't need to be aired in the open area.
Yes. What's your question?
And the question is, the advice we get in the LGA, what I would hope would probably reflect that.
Is that a question or a statement?
That's a question. It's my way of questioning.
Reflection. Mr. McGrath, did you want to respond to that reflection so it makes it a question?
I have nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Oh. Okay, happy to put the motion. Councillor Blacken, did you wish to close debate? Okay, happy to put that. Thank you, councillor. All those in favour? Anyone against? The motion is carried. Thank you for your forbearance and your great patience to councillors and staff. It's been a long meeting and I hereby close it at 9:53. No, we don't have a briefing session, Councillor Cameron.
Do you want to come back for the next one?